24-year-old Heidi Huntley is suing her ex-boyfriend, 26-year-old Eric Huntley, for his share of credit card debt and for damage he caused to her car.
All rise. Now it's case number 333 on the calendar in the matter of Huntley versus Huntley.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Huntley, the defendant is your former boyfriend. You've been together for quite some time, I assume, and you have one child together.
Yes.
Your complaint is that when you broke up, Mr. Huntley agreed that he would take over half of the credit card debt. He made a couple of payments and then stopped. You also claimed that he used a car that belonged to you and caused some damage to the car and vandalism to the car. You wanted to take care of that. Mr. Huntley said he walked out of the house, leaving you in the house with your child. How old is your child?
My son is 7.5.
And he left with his clothes, and that's it. Everything that was purchased on that credit card remained in the house, and he doesn't see why in the world he should pay for it.
Yes.
And with regard to the car, his defense is that any vandalism that was done to the car was paid out by your insurance from an act of vandalism that had nothing to do with him, and you chose not to have the car fixed, but to pocket the insurance money, and therefore he's not paying for it because you already got paid for it, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Good. You lived together from when to when?
February of 2003 until October 8th of 2006.
When and why did you leave, Mr. Huntley?
The relationship just didn't work out. It was an agreed upon thing. It wasn't like I just stormed out. I mean, both of
Okay,
us
so you
were
agreed. So it
unhappy.
was a civilized, orderly
Yes,
arrangement.
we were both unhappy.
What arrangement did you make, Mr. Huntley, with regard to the debt?
I had been paying pretty much all of the, I mean, I had a full-time job and I was going to school, making financial aid and some scholarships, and that was all going to bills while she was only going to school for about 4 years. When I left, I was still paying the credit card bills, but it didn't take a long time to figure out that what was going on was it was an attempt to make sure I didn't have enough money to survive, and I couldn't. Right now, she's living in a 2-bedroom house with hardwood floors, with 2 cars in the driveway. She's got a college degree. I think she's had a job for a little while. I'm sleeping on my dad's couch.
The credit card bills were how much?
We have $38,000 in credit card debt over the course of our 3-year relationship. He'd been paying half the payment on all of the 5 cards, and I had also been paying half a payment on a card that is only in his name, on not my name at all. Our credit cards have both of our names. We're both joint signers on these cards. We just made the arrangement that, you know, hey, you would pay half and I would pay half the minimum payment, and that went on until September. And in September, he told me, I need to save for my own place, I have a new girlfriend, or October, I have a new girlfriend, I just bought a new truck after I lost $1,500 selling our truck that was in joint of our names, and I don't have the money to pay it, so you're just going to have to deal with it yourself. It's not my problem.
Well, you have to deal with it, and he has to deal with it, because if they're joint credit cards, they're going to come after both of you.
Absolutely.
So, what are you doing in court? Here.
He won't pay the credit card.
They're going to come after him. They'll attach your salary, they'll attach his salary.
Well, Your Honor, I have a credit score of 760. His credit score is now 720, but when we met, it was in the 500s and mine was in the 700s. And
Miss Huntley, how many years since 2003 were you employed?
None of those years was I legally employed.
Well, you're not going to stand here in court and tell me you were illegally employed.
I went to school and I had scholarship funds. I had 8 different scholarships, of which I got about $2,800 a month take-home cash.
That you don't have to pay back?
I do have loans. I have student loans.
Of
but
course you do.
some
So
of that
the
I do
answer
not
is,
have to pay
so
back.
the answer is you did not work. He worked. He provided for the household while you were living together. You have to remember, folks, you're not married. We don't have courts in this country for almost marrieds living together, trying it out. We don't have courts for that. If this was a marital situation, I would have no problem. I would say, listen, you have credit card debt, you're responsible for half, and you're responsible for half. That's it. Goodbye and good luck. But that's not the case. The truth of the matter is that if you have $38,000 worth of credit card debt from 2003 in February until 2006 in October, he paid the credit cards.
No, he didn't. He was unemployed for 6 months of that time straight.
Well, you
And we
were
lived
unemployed
off
for
of
4
credit
years.
cards.
Somebody had to pay for
But
these
I wasn't
cars.
unemployed. I brought home $2,800 a month every month,
What'd you do
except
with it?
for July and August.
What did you do with it?
I paid as many bills as he did: car payments, credit card payments, food, clothing.
Well, you know
all
something,
kinds of stuff.
it's very, very interesting, Miss Huntley. I have no idea how you did that, because I educated a whole bunch of kids, and nobody ever gave them $2,800 a month in cash in addition to what they were getting. So you got some kind of gig going here that probably the rest of the civilized world would like to know about.
I have a 3.8 GPA, and I'm an engineering student, and I volunteer 170 hours a year.
Fabulous. What do you want me to do? You want me to say to him, what you should do is pay half the bills?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I'll say to him, what you do should be half the bills. Be nice if you paid half the bills. That's a moral judgment. These bills are in both of your names, and eventually the credit card companies who have advanced to you foolishly $38,000 in credit card expenses are going to come after both of you for the return of this money.
Your Honor, I'm making the payments because I understand how important credit is. I would like to go on with my life.
And
I'm making the payments regardless of whether he is.
Don't you, Mr. Huntley?
I do, but I only have so much money, and you know, it's getting to the point where I have to choose.
Are you paying child support?
Yes.
No.
Oh, interesting.
No, he has not paid child support, and he has not made a payment on any credit cards since August.
Requested to make child support payments 2 weeks ago by the state.
Mr. Huntley, requested by whom?
The state.
The state, because he wouldn't pay it.
I was never asked to pay it.
Just a second.
I've been paying all these other bills.
Listen, you may be angry. You may be angry. I don't know what you're angry about. I don't know. The truth of the matter is, I really don't know what you're angry about. I was going to jump down his throat when he said I was never asked to pay it, because that's not an answer. When you have a child, you're supposed to pay child support. You don't have to be asked by anybody to pay child support. Child has to eat. Both parents are responsible for that. How much are you paying in child support?
$200 a month right now.
$200 a month is not a lot of money, Mr. Huntley.
No, it's not. At the time when I was requested to make child support payments, you know, my paychecks are $800 or $900, and she asked for $600 or $700 every 2 weeks for bills.
Well, you can't do that and pay child support.
I can't do that and
I
pay
haven't
child
asked for
support.
child support until he stopped paying on the bills.
Oh, well, but just a second. But then you did.
I only want what's fair. I only want half of our debt.
Miss Huntley, what you have to do, my dear, if you want half the debt, is you have to get married. That's what happens. That's what happens. Otherwise, you're coming into court, and there is no jurisdiction that I know of for almost marrieds. He can't pay half the credit card bills and the child support order that should be a lot more than $200 a month, quite frankly, Mr.
And it will
Huntley.
be. I put an appeal to have it raised to $640 is what he's going to end up paying, which is just enough to cover the minimum payments on the credit cards.
Well, then you shouldn't have made such extensive credit card purchases. What do you want from me?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You chose to live without benefit of marriage. I don't know why. Maybe it had to do with your scholarships. I'm not sure. Quite frankly, I don't have the time to figure it out.
And later today,
If I believe what you're telling me, which I don't, your mother stole the money that you were giving her, and therefore they repossessed your car, and you wanted to get it back.
That's the truth.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 24-year-old Heidi Huntley claims ex-boyfriend Eric Huntley owes for half of their credit card debt.
Now, the two of you chose not to get married. You chose for whatever economic reason to live without benefit of marriage. I don't know why. Maybe it had to do with your scholarships. Maybe it had to do with something else. I'm not sure. Quite frankly, I don't have the time to figure it out. But if you chose to do that, you can't come to court and say, listen, now you have to go through our assets and liabilities. If I were to go through your assets, if I were to go into your home, Miss Huntley, and look at what you have in your home, would anything in your home be the product of the purchases that were made on these credit cards?
Some things.
And did Mr. Huntley take any things out of the home when he left other than his clothes and personal effects?
No, but some of those things were also on these credit cards.
No, just a second. I don't care. I'm talking about his clothes and personal effects. I'm not talking about beds and refrigerators or washer dryers or anything else that it goes to set up a household.
No, I kicked him out and he took nothing.
Right. Well, then you pay the bill. Bye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She wants to make sure that I can't live a successful life without her. I mean, it's either come back to her or be miserable.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Serrano versus Lugo. Step forward.
23-year-old Patricia Serrano is suing her former friend, Elda Lugo, for a $3,500 loan plus interest. Elda claims Patricia gave her the money from a large settlement.
Ms. Serrano, according to your complaint, the defendant is a friend of yours from high school. She ran into some financial difficulty some time ago and approached you about lending her some money.
Yes, Judge.
You were a good friend. You lent her the money, $3,500. She didn't pay you back. You want
No.
your money back.
Yes.
Ms. Lugo says that you were a good friend to her. You gave her $3,500. You would come into some money. There was never any discussion of payback. As far as she was concerned, it was a gift.
That's true. Differ.
When did you graduate from high school, Miss Lugo?
In June of 2001.
And between June of 2001 and the date of this loan or gift, which was on what date?
Last year, around August or July.
How often did you see each other?
After high school, we didn't see each other because we stopped being friends. And after she had a really bad car accident, her mom came and I started being her friend again. That's when we started.
What year?
I honestly do not recall what year she had a car accident.
What year?
It was in 2002, Your Honor.
Now, tell me about the day you approached Miss Serrano with your money troubles.
I did not approach her. I was just telling her my problems that I had with my family.
Shh, I don't. Listen, if you interrupt again, I'm going to dismiss your case. Do you understand?
Yes, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just told her I was having really hard times with my parents. I was having a lot of financial problems.
What kind of financial problems were you having, Miss Lugo?
My mom stopped making the payments, so they took my car from me.
How old are you?
23.
Why was your mother making your car payments for you?
Because we're both on the loan, and I was giving her the money. She was making the payments out of her account.
Who were you working for at the time?
Bay City's National Bank.
So why weren't you paying the money directly?
Because that was just an arrangement that I had with my mom.
And are you saying that your mother stole your money?
I'm not saying she stole the money. I'm just saying that she wasn't making the payments, and they took the car from me.
So you're saying that if you gave your mother the money and your mother wasn't making the car payments,
She was using it for something else.
that she stole your money?
I guess.
And you told Ms. Serrano that your mother stole your money and they repossessed your car?
I told Patricia the problems that I was having with my parents and why they took my car from me.
Miss Lugo, I don't hear that that's a problem that you're having with your parents. If I believe what you're telling me, which I don't, you're telling me that your mother stole the money that you were giving her for your car loan and using it for her own purposes, and therefore they repossessed your car and you wanted to get it back.
Right.
Now, is that what you want me to believe?
That's the truth. That's exactly how everything's
When did you
always
move
been.
out of your mother's house?
Early September.
So you stayed in your mother's house another year after she stole your money?
Actually,
See where I'm
went-
going? So you had more financial difficulties than just this alleged theft by your mother of your money.
I couldn't just leave my house and just leave everything, like all my parents and my sisters behind.
Well, if I were living with somebody that stole my money and as a result of that my car was repossessed, I certainly wouldn't live there.
In June, I actually drove to Vegas, and I was going to move over there with my cousin.
That's June 2006. We're still talking about 10 months that you were living with your mother, the thief, if I believe you, which I
Right,
don't.
I really didn't have a choice. I mean, I must.
Okay, you're 23 years old. You always have a choice. Okay, now I'm going to get to you, Miss Serrano. Now that I'm getting the personalities in order.
Yes.
Tell me what happened when she approached you in August of 2005 about this money.
Well, she told me the story that her car had gotten repossessed.
Did she tell you how it got repossessed?
Well, she didn't give me a straight answer. I never really did get straight answers from her.
That's a lie.
Don't interrupt. Go ahead.
You know, she came to me, she said, Patty, I haven't been able to make the payments. My mom and my dad aren't helping me out. I just don't have anywhere else to go to for money.
That's not true.
And I said, well, if you need help, feel free to come to me. She said, well, thank you so much. And a couple of days later, she came to me. She said, Patty, I need to take you up on your offer. Can you lend me $3,500? And I said, sure thing, I'll write you a check. And I'm not too sure if it was a day or two later that she said, it's too much trouble to go about, you know, with the check. I can't cash it. She even told me that her mom had found the check and was questioning her about the check.
That's not true.
Why, you know, why I was giving her a check for $3,500. And she said, well, I'll give you back the check, and can you please give me $3,500 in cash? I said, wow, you know, I'm like, okay, let me see what I can work out. And I went to the bank, withdrew $3,500 cash.
Let me see from your bank. The
Yeah,
withdrawal.
it's right here. It's highlighted in yellow.
Where did you get all this money from?
I was involved in a very serious car accident in 2002, and I got a small settlement out of it.
A large settlement.
Oh, that's interesting, Miss Lugo. Did you say a large settlement? How large?
I don't know.
When you said it was a large settlement, you must know something about the settlement.
That's all she would always say. She got a large settlement. I never wanted to ask
I never
how much.
told you anything.
Shh. When did she tell you about this large settlement?
After she was recovering from her injuries.
When did you get the settlement?
Sometime in 2004.
You still have any of the money left?
Yes, I do. Some in investments.
Good. So you gave her $3,500 in cash.
Yes.
And what was the arrangement about paying you back?
She said, okay, Patty, you know I wouldn't have done this if I really didn't need it. Believe me, I'm going to have this money to you tops the end of the year when I get my bonus from the bank.
That's not true.
So I said, okay, you know what?
What part of keep quiet don't you understand?
End of the year came, I didn't see the money. She said, well, you know, I just need a couple of more months, whatever. And I said, okay, you know, just don't forget about it. You know, I'm being your friend here.
When for the first time, Miss Lugo, did the plaintiff ask for this money back?
Early September.
That's a lie.
So what part don't you understand?
Sorry, Your Honor.
Tell me about the conversation when she asked you for the money back.
She started calling me at work and she started emailing me at work.
What would she say when she called?
She was just calling me, telling me that she needed to meet me somewhere.
When did she, for the first time, ask you for the money back? Answer my question.
I believe her first email was September 7th.
That's not true.
Shh. Next time you're gone. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I assume you want me to consider giving you your money back.
Yes, please.
Then don't do it again. September 6th, and what did she say in the email? Do you have a copy of that email?
No, I don't.
Do you have a copy of the email?
Yes.
I want to see the email from September 6th.
She emailed me a promissory note that she wanted me to sign, that saying that I owed her the money, and because.
Shh. Well, you emailed her and you said to her that you planned on giving her the money.
Yeah, she was calling me at work nonstop, and she was just harassing me.
No, this has nothing to do with a response to harassment.
That's only the email that she gave you, but she didn't tell you about the phone calls that she was making to work.
I just want to see the emails. This is Wednesday, September 6th, and it's a lovely email. Absolutely lovely. You're happy for her. You're happy that she's happy. Hey, I'm not sure what's gone wrong between us again, but I really appreciate everything you have done for me and the times you've been there for me. I guess we are once again going our own separate roads. If it's the money thing, it's stopping you, don't worry. I will give it to you. Do me a favor. Please do not email me at the bank. I get in trouble for receiving personal emails.
My manager talked to me, and she was telling me that I was receiving too many personal emails. She emailed me.
Listen to me. She wants her money back.
Yeah, after she was trying to get with my boyfriend, she was trying to hook up with my boyfriend,
That is a
and
lie.
I confronted her about it. Until then is when she came back and wanted me to sign a promissory note and said that the gift that she gave me for $3,500 was then the loan.
I don't see why somebody who doesn't look like they're rolling in dough would give you $3,500 and not expect to be repaid at some point. Not necessarily in a week, not necessarily in a month or 6 months or even a year. But someday, within a reasonable period of time, when you got your act together, if you ever get your act together, she expected her money back. And to stand there at this point and say, well, she tried to get over on my boyfriend, and that wasn't right, and therefore I'm not paying her a dime, that's the wrong thing to do. It's not the moral thing to do. You want to end a relationship with her? Terrific. Do it. You're not friends anymore? You don't want to be friends anymore? Fine. But she was there for you when you needed her, and you're supposed to do the moral right thing and pay her her money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. Next step out.
Dora Huff is suing her estranged son-in-law, Paul Viloff, for posting his bail after he was arrested for domestic violence.
All rise. Now, this is case number 342 on the calendar in the matter of Huff versus Viloff. Thank you. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Huff, the defendant is your soon-to-be ex-son-in-law. I assume this is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that he owes you money for bail.
Yes, ma'am.
And that he agreed to pay you back once you had bailed him out, and he has declined to do so. Mr. Veloff says you made no agreement with him with regard to the bail money. You made an agreement with his wife. So if you want the bail money paid, get it from your daughter. That's your defense?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Veloff, how long have you been married?
13 years, 14 years?
13 or 14 years.
13.
You have children?
Yes, 2.
How many?
2.
When were you arrested, sir?
It was filed on July 4th, but I actually turned myself in on that Sunday, which would have been, I think, the 6th, 7th? Of July, I'm sorry.
7/7 of 06?
Yes.
Is this the first time you had been arrested, sir?
Yes.
And this was for domestic violence?
Yes.
And the domestic violence alleged that you either assaulted or threatened or harassed your wife?
Right.
Were you in or out of the house on the 7th of July?
In the house.
No. Okay. Mrs. Veloff, when did you complain about your husband's conduct to the police?
The incident of 4th of July.
Tell me about the incident.
We have been having marital problems for quite a while, and a recurring situation came up again that he was not working and taking care of his responsibilities. It escalated into a yelling argument that turned physical. Shortly after, well, the argument went on for quite a while. He was restraining me. I was not allowed. I was undressed coming out of the shower. He wouldn't allow me to get dressed. He wouldn't allow me to leave the master bedroom. Finally, when I did get out of the bedroom, I made it down to the lowest floor of the house, got a phone, and dialed 911. While I was on the phone with the dispatcher, he left the property. While he was gone, they dispatched 2 sheriff's vehicles to the house. They took my statement, took photos.
Do you have a copy of the statement, please? Do you have a copy of that police report?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay. They took photographs of what?
They took photographs of the marks on my body and the damage to the home.
What kind of marks did you have on your body?
My arms were bruised, where he had grabbed me and forcibly threw me on the bed. My neck was irritated and red.
Your Honor, I do have a copy of the charges.
I'd like to see them. Where were your children when all this was going on?
There was a 4th of July community picnic that my daughter was at, and my son was outside playing basketball with a friend of his. I believe, well, he was in the driveway. I think they were playing basketball.
How old are your children?
14 and 12.
What's the status of this protective order?
The restraining order?
Yeah, what's the status of the case?
The case was dismissed.
When was the case dismissed?
It went to trial while my mother and I were in Italy for 2 weeks. It was dismissed because I did not show to testify.
Why didn't you appear to testify?
I was in Italy.
Why did you go to Italy during the trial?
It was already pre-planned, the trip. All of the subpoenas for me to appear were in my mail when I got back.
Your Honor, this was a 2-week Mediterranean cruise. We had planned 7 months prior to take all the kids and grandkids, everybody.
Got it. But, Ms. Viloff, after he was arrested, because he turned himself in, according to your mother's complaint, he called you and asked you to bail him out, right?
Yes.
How much was your bail?
$2,000.
And why did you think your wife would bail you out when she was the one who filed the complaint?
Well, I called her because it started getting really rough in the jail, and I've never experienced anything like that. And I called her.
How rough was it?
They found knives, shanks.
So you wanted out of there?
Yeah, and it was Wednesday night. The other inmates were starting to get their commissary or whatever they buy for the week, and a lot of it was like cold medicine, and they were chopping it up and snorting it, and I could see attitudes change, and it started getting really scary.
So you were frightened?
Yes.
So you called your wife?
Yes, I did.
And what did you say to her?
I asked her to call my dad to see if he would bail me out.
Why didn't you call your dad?
Why didn't I call my dad?
That's exactly what I said. Why didn't you call your dad? Why are you calling the alleged victim instead of calling your father directly? Don't you speak to him?
Yes, I do.
So then why didn't you call your father yourself?
The phone calls I was able to make were very limited.
Well, I know, I understand they're very limited. I've been in the justice system a very long time. There's no reason that you're going to be able to give me that I'm going to be satisfied with, sir, as to why you didn't call your father yourself.
I don't know.
Ma'am?
Maybe your wife is going to tell me.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you call his father?
First of all, he called the house and spoke to our son, who then called me. So by the time I got the phone call, our son was frantic with worry, thinking that his father was in mortal jeopardy.
Okay.
And then I did go and call his father, and his father said no.
That's why you didn't call him.
No, that's not true.
Otherwise,
no,
sir, you know, if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. How old is your son?
14.
Before I would involve my 14-year-old son in the fact that I was incarcerated and I was frightened for my life, I would call my father. If I had a decent relationship with my father and if I felt that my father would want to protect me, I certainly wouldn't involve my teenage child. That's not being a protective parent.
I did not know he was going to answer the phone.
What kind of
proceeded to...
Just a second. What kind of dumb answer is that?
I mean,
What kind of a dumb answer? So because he answered the phone, you unloaded on him?
I didn't unload.
Well, of course you did. Okay. So now you're between a rock and a hard place. You got your 14-year-old child saying you got to do something to get dad out of jail. You got his father who says, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not putting up any money for him. You don't have any money, so you call your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And you say, you got to help me out here. You got to help me out. And she goes down and she puts up the bond. That's so far what happened.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, When you got out of jail, Mr. Veloff, who was there?
Who was there? My kids, my wife, and my mother-in-law.
And what did you say to your mother-in-law?
Thank you.
What else did you say to her? What else did he say?
He was in tears, and he hugged me, and he thanked me, and I told him two things. One, he had to get his act together, and two, because he didn't have a job, he had to pay me back, and he owned 2 cars, which he'd already told Tracy he would do. I expected him to sell one of the 2 cars.
To pay you back?
To pay me back for my credit card.
Just,
I'm sorry.
And did he pay you back?
No, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If she didn't have grandchildren, that's probably what she would have said to her daughter. Let him stay there, because as far as she was concerned, you could have rotted in hell.
And later today,
Doesn't like the camera.
Probably not. Felix.
Feisty little thing.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dora Huff claims a strange son-in-law, Paul Veloff, owes for bail money she posted on his behalf.
Why should your mother-in-law pay your bail?
I didn't ask her to.
No, you didn't ask her to. That's absolutely right, Mr. Veloff. You did not ask her to. But you promised to pay her back. But you promised to pay her back. You didn't ask her to, and absolutely, if you hadn't said to her, I'm going to pay you back, that unfortunately for Miss Huff, there would have been no recourse. The truth of the matter is, at the time that she put up the bail for her daughter and her grandchildren. Because as far as she was concerned, you could have rotted in hell. I'm sure. I'm sure. If she didn't have grandchildren, that's probably what she would have said to her daughter. Let him stay there. But she has grandchildren, and you can't do that when you have teenage grandchildren. You can't say, listen, you're going to let your father rot in jail, so he's going to call here and he's going to complain that somebody's going to shank him. Mr. Veloff, as you see, sir, I have zero sympathy for your position morally, and I have zero sympathy for your position legally. If you had not told your mother-in-law that you would pay her back.
I promised to get my act together and get a job.
Just a second. Just a second. Did you get your act together?
Yes.
Did you get a job?
Yes.
Good. Now you have money to pay her back. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,020. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
We went to marriage counseling, and everything was going wonderful.
It's over.
Don't know what happened after that.
The marriage is over.
Part, go our own ways, and, hopefully, no hard feelings.
I will never be hit again.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of DeCarlos versus Yaffe, step forward, please.
23-year-old Anthony DeCarlos is suing vet technician Sharon Yaffe for failing to return his miniature pinscher, Phoenix.
Mr. DeCarlos, you are suing Miss Jaffe because you claim that because of her actions, your pet was neutered.
Yes, ma'am.
Without your permission. And she caused you a great deal of stress when she refused to divulge the name of the people who she had given the dog to when your dog turned up astray and missing. What I gather from your complaint is you were not at home. The puppy was at home with friends of yours or roommates.
Roommates.
And they negligently allowed the puppy to escape the house.
Yes,
How old was the puppy at the time?
8 months.
And how many people were supposed to be watching him?
Just one of my roommates was at home at the time.
And how did he let the dog out?
He was going to India for a trip, and he was putting up a mailbox. We have 2 doors, and my dog got out because he left the top door open and the bottom door, and he got out while he was doing that.
So he was negligent?
Yes.
On what date did he run away from your house?
On the 25th of June.
And how long had you had the puppy at the time?
I'd had him for probably like 4 months.
Where did you get him from?
A breeder.
And how much did you pay for him?
Like $300.
Are you sure?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Mr. DeCarlos?
Sorry. Yes.
Paid $300. Did you get papers for him?
Yes, ma'am. I have
I'd like
papers.
to see them. He's a miniature pinscher.
Yes.
I had one of those when I was a child. Okay, so June 25th, the puppy escapes. What did you do to find him?
Well, when I found out, I was at the library when this happened. I came home and found that my dog was gone. And so I was like, oh my God, what happened? So I went, immediately put up flyers to find my dog around my block and everything like that. And my roommate did help me, so he did feel bad, but I can't blame him, So we
Listen, look, stop talking so fast. Oh. Doesn't like the camera.
Probably not. It's okay. Phoenix.
Feisty little thing. Anyway, so you put up flyers. What else did you do?
I would put up flyers.
What else did you do?
I called.
Who did you call?
Someone that found my dog responded to the flyers, and they contacted me and let me know where they had taken my dog to.
Okay, so you yourself did not call the animal rescue, animal control.
Oh, I called. I visited numerous animal shelters around where I live.
Okay.
And I called like the animal patrol like where I live because I would figure like he'd be around in my area, but that wasn't the case at all.
So somebody saw the flyer with the dog's picture and called you.
Yes, ma'am.
On what date was that?
I'm not sure of the day exactly.
Well, it becomes important in this scenario.
Okay. It was probably like 2 to 3 weeks later, after the 25th.
3 weeks later?
Yes.
So we're now mid-July?
Yes.
Okay. And the person who called you, just for the purpose of this, said that your dog was injured?
Right. They had told me that he had been clipped by a car, and he was fine. Like, he was, by the time they took him to the animal hospital, like, he was walking and he was fine. And they told me that they had admitted him and they gave him to a nurse, and she took him home. And then they gave me the number of the place, so I called, and she definitely agreed. She said I took him home and I cared for him or whatever. And then she gave him to Sharon Yaffe.
Okay.
Sad.
He's really not happy. Why don't you take him out? Okay?
No, sir. Okay.
Got a heart of a lion, that little guy. So the person at the animal shelter, they took care of your pet who had been injured.
Yes, ma'am.
And somebody was wonderful enough to take him home, nurse him back to health, and then turned him over to the defendant.
Yes.
Miss Yaffe, you work for the shelter?
I work for a shelter.
And who was it that gave you the puppy?
A co-worker of mine who was working at the animal hospital when the animal was delivered.
On what date did you take custody of him?
July 3rd, which would have been a Monday morning.
Okay, go ahead.
The prior weekend, the co-worker at my weekend job, which is an emergency animal hospital, advised she had been recuperating a dog at home for 10 to 14 days, wanted to know if I would be able to find it a home. And I told her, if it's something small with a nice disposition, nothing that bites, I can always find something small a home. I did have a friend of mine who has a geriatric miniature pinscher, and that would have been my first outlet for the dog. I picked the dog up that morning from the animal hospital, which would have been Monday morning. The animal had already been neutered.
The animal had been neutered at the animal hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
So before you took custody of the animal, it was neutered?
Correct.
Go ahead.
I picked the dog up. I called my friend and let him know what I had. He contacted his wife. He has a daughter at home who's like 10 years old. And they said they would try the dog out. So the gentleman came and picked the animal up from me that same day.
Okay. When did Mr. DeCarlos contact you?
Friday, which would have been July 7th, I believe.
And he described the dog?
Yes.
And when did he get the dog back?
I'm not sure of the exact day.
When did you get the dog back, sir?
I'm not sure of the exact day either.
It was in July.
Yeah, I had to get a lawyer to actually get my dog back from her. I even offered, when I spoke with her, I was like, I will pay, these people, I'll buy them a new dog. I just want my dog back. That's all that I really cared about. And she was like, no, I'm not gonna, I don't want to make these people unhappy and this, that, and the other. But I'm like, it's my dog. I came forward. It's my dog. And on top of everything, Your Honor, she lied. She was lying to me about everything.
I never lied.
Your Honor, she told me that the dog was in the facility when it was not. And I have documentation from her job right here that says that they did an investigation on her and they found her guilty of everything.
Well, let me see what you have. Ms. Yaffe, you did not make the dog available to the plaintiff when he called you. You want to tell me why?
The animal had been in the home already.
4 days.
4 days.
4 days.
I was really apprehensive about contacting the people and letting them know that an owner had come forward for the animal. They've got a 10-year-old daughter. I knew the dog was in a good home, a good, responsible home.
Okay. You made a misjudgment.
In hindsight, yes.
You made a misjudgment. Okay. I see Mr. Takala said what this says is that they conducted an investigation to determine whether or not Ms. Yaffe's actions were within departmental guidelines of the animal control. And it says that the actions of the employees were not within our best policy nor our best practice of the police department and animal control facility, and your complaint has been sustained. Okay. So you should have gotten your dog back.
Yes.
So?
I did get my dog back. But the reason why I'm suing is because my dog was neutered.
That's not her problem. That's your roommate's problem. That's not her problem. Nobody did anything to intentionally inflict injury on your puppy. Nobody. What happens is when an animal, I assume that something must have happened to the puppy's tags and or chip, which you should have had on the puppy so that the puppy could have been easily identifiable.
Yes, ma'am.
And that wasn't there. Am I right, Mr. DeCarlos?
Yes, ma'am, you're right.
Okay, so if you had had a chip inserted in the puppy, which everybody recommends now,
yes,
or you had a collar with your telephone number and way to contact you, we wouldn't be here today. So that's your fault. It's not her fault that your dog was neutered. She didn't neuter the dog.
Right, but she knew it was taking place, like she knew about it.
So what? Not every grievance, Mr. DeCarlos, is a lawsuit. Now, I agree with you that the defendant, and she acknowledges in hindsight, she should have turned the dog back over to you. It was a mistake on her part. She can't say, well, they've come attached to the dog in 4 days and I don't feel comfortable about calling, you know, and say you have to return the dog to its rightful owner. But she's not responsible for the fact that your dog was neutered.
So should I, like, sue, like, the animal hospital that they have no documentation, or?
Absolutely not. You shouldn't sue anybody. You should take your dog home and teach him not to growl. You know, you got your dog back in one piece, and the fact that he's neutered, what difference does it make?
Well, I was planning on breeding him.
Plan something else. Your own negligence in failing to have proper identification on the dog caused the dog to go into a shelter without any known information. That's your negligence, so go sue yourself. Your case against the defendant is dismissed. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Maria Bosworth is suing her ex-husband, police officer Anthony Bosworth Sr., for having her falsely arrested for child abuse. Anthony claims he did nothing wrong.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 251 on the calendar in the matter of Bosworth versus Bosworth. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mrs. Bosworth, this is your former husband.
Yes, ma'am.
You have 2 children together, and it is your claim that he is responsible for having you falsely arrested after an incident that involved one of your children who was 18.
Yes.
Mr. Bosworth says that you caused the whole incident yourself.
Correct.
Now, you were married when?
In 1988.
And when were you divorced?
97, ma'am.
Who had primary physical custody of the children in 1997?
I did.
And how often did their father spend time with them?
Not that often, ma'am.
How often, Mr. Bosworth, did you visit with your children starting in 1997?
It varied. It usually was once a week.
Usually. Sometimes you skipped a week?
Sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on my work schedule.
What kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm a police officer right now.
How long have you been a police officer?
Since 1999.
And did you have a reasonable relationship with your former wife?
No, my relationship with my former wife has been hostile and unreasonable.
Okay. Now, I tried to piece together from your complaint and from your answer what transpired on, what date this happened?
July 24th of 05.
And I gather that you had an argument with your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
The argument was about?
Her not cleaning her room.
Had that been an ongoing problem?
Yes. All weekend I had asked her to clean her room, Friday and Saturday. Sunday, her room was still a mess. She constantly was on the telephone. And at that point, I removed the cell phone. I told her until she was to clean the room, that cell phone was not going to be given back to her.
Now, this is the problem. Mr. Bosworth.
Yes.
Your former wife takes the telephone away from her daughter, who has not followed a house direction. So far, correct?
Correct.
And as far as I'm concerned, so far, her prerogative. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would.
So your daughter calls you on the phone and says to you, she took my phone away.
No.
Well, tell me what happened, sir, that brought you over to the house that day.
I originally got the phone from my daughter.
I don't care. Don't give me any stories about giving the phone to a teenage daughter. How did you come over to the house that day, Mr. Bosworth?
I had gotten tired of not being able to contact my daughter via the cell phone. Therefore, I went to the house that day. On July 24th of 05.
July 24th, you tried to contact your daughter.
Yes.
And you couldn't.
Correct.
Go ahead.
So the phone was in my name. I purchased the phone for her use. Therefore, I wanted the phone back because if my daughter's not going to be able to use it...
Mr. Bosworth, you're skipping a step, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
And don't skip a step with me.
What step would you like me to begin at, Judge?
I want to know when you found out that your former wife had taken the phone away from your daughter.
I had called that day, and my daughter had told me...
That's right.
...that she had taken the phone again.
So, you went over there because you wanted your phone back.
Correct.
Wrong! 125% wrong. Your daughter complained to you that her mother took the phone, and you went over there and stuck your nose in where it didn't belong. Because while your daughter is living under her mother's roof, her mother owns the air she breathes.
Okay.
And if you gave your daughter a phone to use, you don't get in between that sort of discipline between her and her daughter. You interfered with discipline for the person who has primary physical custody of the two children. She ignored her mother's direction for 3 days, and her mother said, listen, I'm tired of seeing you sitting on the phone for 3 days while I asked you to clean up the room that's in my house that I pay for. So give me the phone. You come and say, it's not your phone. You give me the phone.
Correct.
That was the wrong thing to do, sir. Now, did you call the police, sir?
When I went to retrieve the phone, my ex-wife slammed the door in my face and refused
Because you came in and said, what did you say, Mr. Bosworth?
I asked my ex-wife...
What did you say?
If she would give me the phone back.
What did he say, Miss Bosworth? That's not what you said.
Where the F is my phone?
That sounds right, Mr. Bosworth.
That's very...
That sounds right, Mr. Bosworth, because how far do you live?
About 5-10 minutes from her house.
And what were you doing when you called your daughter and said, I can't get in touch with you?
I was just hanging around the house, I believe.
And what time of the day or evening was it?
Early evening, sometime
And your
after
family
4.
was home?
I believe so.
And you have wife?
Yes.
You have children?
Not with my current wife, no.
She has children?
Yes.
That live with you?
Yes, at the time.
Good. So now you have a wife and children, and you get up and you leave them to go over and retrieve your cell phone. So my sense of that, sir, is that you were annoyed, especially since you indicated to me briefly a moment ago that it's not the first time she's taken away the phone, right?
Correct.
So you were really annoyed this time. And when you got there, you want me to believe, Mr. Bosworth, that you said to your former wife, may I please have my phone back? That's what you want me to believe you said?
Your Honor, I am not a loud person. I'm not a violent person.
I don't say you're loud or violent, sir. I'm asking you if you want me to believe that you knocked at the door and said, I'd like my phone back.
I'm not hostile to the point where I will curse at her in her own home. I am very respectful of her in her own home as well as my children in her own home.
You know, sir, I know you've been a police officer for almost 10 years. I've been sitting here for almost 30. Some things make sense and some things don't make sense. What doesn't make sense is why somebody would get in their car in the evening, leave their family, and go over to their former wife's home where there had been a dispute with an adult child, because she's 18 years old, and there was no indication that her mother had beat her, had tied her to a radiator, had stripped her down and throttled her with a belt. She took away her cell phone because she was being disrespectful. You left your family, you went over there, and you caused a problem.
No, I did not.
Oh, yes, you did. Did you call the police?
Before the problem...
Did you call the police?
Yes, I did.
Because you didn't get your cell phone?
Because I didn't want a problem with my ex-wife.
Slam the door.
Mr. Bosworth, you're not following me, sir. If you think that you're right, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. And I'm usually very, very respectful of police officers because I think that they do a very tough job. You abused your position as a police officer by calling the police to go over there and retrieve a cell phone.
At that time.
They have better things to do than to deal with your ego. They have people to protect. And if you wanted your cell phone back, all you have to do is you call and you say to the cell phone company, I'm discontinuing the service on this cell phone. That's it. And you tell your daughter, listen, you want to live with your mother? You got to live with her rules. I'm not interfering with that. You chose to interfere with it, and you made a big to-do over nothing. And if you feel as if you're being dressed down today, you are. You are being dressed down because you did the wrong thing. That doesn't mean that you have a case, Miss Bosworth. That means that he behaved badly.
Yes.
So far.
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I said, I don't have his phone. This officer said, you're lying. At this point, he came around, handcuffed me so quickly, I couldn't even tell you how he put the cuffs on me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Maria Bosworth claims ex-husband, police officer Anthony Bosworth Sr., had her falsely arrested for child abuse. Anthony says Maria got herself arrested.
What kind of community do you live in? How big a town?
About 150,000 citizens.
And how many police officers for 150,000 citizens?
350 to 400. I might add that at the time of the incident, I was not a police officer at that time. I had gotten laid off in 2003 and reinstated at the beginning of this year.
So you were a police officer. So these were people that you knew?
Not personally.
These were people that you knew and that knew that you were a police officer.
Yes.
Otherwise, you know what they would have said to you if they called up and said, I'm going to my ex-wife's house to get my cell phone back? They would have said to you, don't get us involved with this, Mr. Bosworth. You want your cell phone back? Go to civil court. But because they were covering for you, they reported and took people away from important business to deal with your ego. Outrageous. Okay, so what happened when the police got there?
He had called me on the phone and was rude and belligerent, and I hung up the phone. That's why he got to my house so quickly, because he was upset that I hung up, because I was not going to tolerate him being disrespectful on the phone. When he got to my door, he rang the bell excessively, I would say 20 to 30 times. And when I got to the door, I slammed the door. I told him, you don't know what's going on, you need not to meddle. He never asked me what had occurred for me to remove the cell phone from my daughter. So at that point, I went back to baking as I was. I realized I needed some additional spices. I left, and Mr. Bosworth was outside, and he said, where are you going? The police are on their way. I looked at him and I said, you entertain them. I feel that I didn't do nothing wrong for the police to be at my home.
Absolutely right.
I got in my van and I proceeded to back up. The officer came and he acknowledged Mr. Bosworth. He said, hello, Boz. And my ex-husband said, she's about to pull out. The officer said, no, she's not. Pull that van forward. At that point, I complied. He put his cruiser behind my van. The officer got out, went to Mr. Bosworth, shook his hand. They gave a hug, and they started talking.
Put your hand down, sir.
I went right up to my daughter, Your Honor. She was outside as well. And I put my hand on her arm, and I said, come here. Having Daddy and the police here doesn't change the rules in there. Mr. Bosworth, that I heard him tell Officer, get her away from her. My daughter at this point was crying uncontrollably. This girl, all she wanted was her cell phone, and his intention was to get it out of my hand and put it in her hand, undermine my authority. This is why my kids don't respect me.
Got it. At what point were you arrested?
I would say a half hour later. At this point, my daughter was crying. The officer kept on grabbing me, and I have photos, Your Honor, of what he did to my arm, his buddy. This is not from the shacks. This is actually from him holding me. And I kept on telling the officer, please let go, you're hurting me. And he kept on grabbing. I said, you're hurting me, let go, what's your problem? He got in my face and he said, get your effing in the house or I'm going to find many reasons to arrest you. So at this point, I said, let go, you're hurting me. And he kept on squeezing tighter. So I did go in the home. My daughter was pressed on time. She left crying uncontrollably with her boyfriend. Mr. Bosworth and this officer stayed in front of my house for a good 15 minutes. And I couldn't figure out why are they still there. And I went inside of the garage, Your Honor, to listen. And I heard Mr. Bosworth tell him how of a B I am of an ex-wife, and that mentally and physically I abused my children.
I want to know at what point you were arrested.
At this point, I decided to go in my backyard. I thought the matter was over. They were just talking. I was hoping to God that they just leave. And I was in the backyard. This officer opened my gate, and it's a 6-foot tall gate. And he came and he said, where's his phone? I said, I don't have his phone. This officer said, you're lying. At this point, the officer called me a liar. I said, sir, I'm not comfortable with you because you know my ex-husband. I want a supervisor. My cordless phone was right there where I was on my deck. I got my cordless phone, and I pressed 9, and I attempted to dial for a supervisor. He came around, handcuffed me so quickly, I couldn't even tell you how he put the cuffs on me.
Listen, Miss Bosworth, why didn't you sue the police department?
My attorney told me to wait until the matter was over, and in June of this year, 06, it was over. I did file charges.
And the case was dismissed?
Yes. He never showed up in court, Your Honor.
Good thing. But is your attorney filing a lawsuit against the police department?
We are in the process.
That's exactly what you should do.
Yes.
Him too. Him too. Outrageous conduct, sir. Outrageous abuse of your power. Let me see the police report.
If you look at the police report, it was not my actions that caused her to get arrested.
Oh, listen to me, sir. Listen to me, sir. I know
Your Honor.
exactly what happened, sir. I want to see what the police officer wrote down in this police report. Not necessarily that I believe it.
All
I just want to read it. Outrageous. Your conduct is outrageous, Mr. Bosworth. I'm amazed that you're a peace officer.
Mm-hmm.
Officers were dispatched to assist a subject in retrieving his cell phone.
And they know him.
Where is your daughter now, Miss Bosworth?
She's in college in Georgia.
Is this her first year in college?
Yes, ma'am.
Graduated from high school with reasonable grades?
3.2.
And she got the 3.2 living in your home?
Yes, ma'am.
Not living with her father?
No, ma'am.
I'm speaking. Not living with her father?
Never.
Who filled out her applications with her?
I did.
Not her father?
No.
Father gives her cell phones?
Oh, yeah.
The fact that your former husband exercised the poorest of judgment does not make your case actionable against him. The fact that he abused his power as a police officer, despite the fact that he had been a laid-off police officer, calling the police. And you lied to me, by the way, when you said you didn't know these officers. The police officer said that he knows you. Abused his power. That's also not actionable. He has the right to come over to your house. He also has the right to call the police. They have the right to hang up on him and say, you know, go to civil court, as in their protocol for most things that have to do with property. They chose not to do that in this case. And in my view, that is actionable on your part, civilly, against the police department, not necessarily against him.
He instructed the officer to arrest me if I didn't give the cell phone. If I gave the cell phone, I would never got arrested.
I never instructed any police officer
They
to
told
take
me down
action.
at the police station.
Your Honor.
Just a second, sir. You know, officer.
No, I do not, personally.
Well, he says,
We were partners.
the above, a male known to the officer.
All officers know each other's names, especially laid-off officers at that time.
Well, sir, what I'm saying to you is,
He knew I was
very
a police
easy,
officer, yes.
very, very easy for you to resolve that, sir. You could have brought officer with you as a witness.
I tried to get both officers to come as a witness, and they both told me they didn't want anything to do with this woman.
I wouldn't either, because I got to tell you something.
As well as the witnesses that were there, her neighbors, they didn't want anything to do with this. They wrote statements. They showed me pictures of her past incidences.
Your Honor.
Listen to me, sir.
May I ask?
Miss Bosworth, I want to tell you something.
Yes.
He did the wrong thing. I think that in 1,000 years, he never expected to come here today and be dressed down. Never expected to be dressed down, because nobody has told him he was wrong, except you. And he doesn't believe you because he thinks you're nutty. I'm prepared to tell him that he's wrong, that he did absolutely 100% the wrong thing that day in July.
Thank you. May I add something, Your Honor?
No, it's not necessary.
It's important.
Okay.
My attorney tried to subpoena the 911 call. There was never a 911 call. He called officer on his personal cell phone. He knows he has the section of my city. My attorney...
Just a second. Eventually, if this matter proceeds to a civil lawsuit against the city, which I assume it will, and I assume it should, they can't doctor 911 calls dating back to July.
Your Honor.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Was there a 911 call?
No, there was not. I called the police non-emergency line to ask for an assist to prevent a breach of the peace. Therefore, they determined which officer would show up.
Just a second. You called a non-emergency number that takes you right into the police station.
The dispatch
That
center,
takes you right into the police station.
Yes.
I got it.
Not directly.
I got it. No, I got it. I got it. Where is that number published?
In the yellow pages. Yeah, yellow pages of the phone book.
Not a 911 number, though.
No, ma'am.
No. So that peace officers know how to get in touch with that number, right?
Every citizen should know that.
No, I don't. We have a large audience here. I want you to raise your hands, please, if any of you know the non-emergency number to get to your local police precinct in order to have a car dispatched. Raise your hand. Look at this.
Ma'am, it's in the phone book.
Look, I don't care if it's in the phone book. You just said to me every citizen should know the number.
They should.
Look at these. These are intelligent people. I don't know the number. And you're not going to find anybody more intelligent than me when it comes to law enforcement, Mr. Bosworth.
I believe you, Your Honor.
The case against him is dismissed. But I wish that I were the judge presiding over the case against the police department where
What
you
about the
live.
mental anguish I suffered according
Listen, you picked him. You picked him But your lawsuit is a valid one. He exercised poor judgment that day. Poor judgment is not compensated in this way. But the police department have a duty to act responsibly. They have a duty, and they acted not only irresponsibly, but there is no question that they responded to that location because of who he was, and they did absolutely the wrong thing. It was a nonviolent situation when they were asked to come to help retrieve a cell phone, and I absolutely believe you when you say that the police officer came back and said to you, now I want the cell phone. That, sir, is a civil matter. Clear? Goodbye.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Dan Otts and her son, 16-year-old Joshua Phillips, are suing tow company owner Michael Tuttle for illegally towing their car. The plaintiffs claim Michael is a con artist.
All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Yeah, this is case number 359 on the calendar in the matter of Otts Phillips versus Tuttle. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir.
Ms. Otts, this is your son.
Correct.
You purchased a car for your son on what date?
August 22nd.
What kind of car was it?
A 91 Ford Escort.
Were you excited with it?
It's a new car, yeah.
And he was using it to get to and from school?
And work, correct.
The car broke down on what date?
September the 8th.
So he called you and said, my car broke down on the side of the road. Can you come and get me?
He attempted to call me, and his cell phone died. So a sheriff had stopped, and he used her cell phone.
Okay, and did the sheriff take him someplace?
No, he called me, and then I came and got him.
From the car?
Correct.
From the location where the car was? And the sheriff had been there too?
She had left before I got there.
Did the sheriff take any information or do anything?
She ran my records and everything, and she put the orange ribbon on my antenna, stating that I had taken care of the tow, and it was all taken care of.
How did you take care of the tow?
I did.
How did you do that?
I called my brother. He works at Hickory Grove Auto, and I get all my tows through them.
Okay, and you left?
Correct.
When you got home, your son remembered that he had something in the car?
Correct.
So you drove him back to the car?
We drove him back.
And when you got back, the car was gone?
Correct. Called the police department to report it stolen.
On the same date?
Correct.
You have a copy of that report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
We reported it stolen.
Okay, so this is what the case is all about. Mr. Tuttle has a towing company, and Mr. Tuttle came and towed your car. A month later, he contacted you. On what date did you contact her?
Would have been around the 26th, I believe.
Of September or October?
That would have been September.
It was the 5th of October.
Let me see your record, sir, indicating that you spoke to her on September 26th. Would you point someplace here where you say it was September 26th when you called her?
Yeah, it's not the 26th, it's 9/7. That's when it was picked up.
It says it was 9/7.
It's not my question to you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Tuttle, this is not going to be a happy day for you, sir. I want you to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
The police report indicates that the car broke down, stolen, on September 8th. According to your receipt here that somebody signed, you got a message that the car was to be towed on September 7th.
Correct.
That was the day before it broke down. Why would they want their car towed the day before it broke down?
We had a backup person filling in for the lady that was sick on that day, and she filled out all the information there.
Well, she filled it out wrong.
Yeah, obviously.
So this is what the case is about. You didn't contact her until October, which you could have done. You could have contacted her immediately when you towed the car. You chose not to do that. You kept the car for a month. Then you called her and you wanted $600 to get the car out of your impound, plus $85 for towing. You proved to me that she called you, sir, to pick up the car. Prove it.
Somebody called that tow in.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I think that that's the way you do business. You cruise up and down, and you take somebody's car, and then you wait and build up a bill, and you say, well, this car's probably worth $600, $700. I'll wait until I get up to that point, and then I'm going to give them a buzz, and they'll want their car back. The only problem is the plaintiff had already replaced the car because she didn't know who had it. And this car, according to the plaintiff, had an orange ticket on it. What does that mean?
Police have came by it and tagged it.
Tagged it that said what?
That it's been tagged. that they notice that it's there.
You indicate in your papers that the police officer is a witness. Is that right?
Yes.
Where's the police officer?
She's here today.
I'd like to see her, please.
Quiet.
Officer, would you raise your right hand, please? You swear to tell the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name.
Deputy Jane Ruckold.
You know this young man?
Yes, I do.
Did you respond to his situation when his car broke down?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember when that was?
On September 8th at approximately 4:00 p.m.
Not September 7th.
No.
No. And what did you do to the car?
If I can, I was westbound on Interstate 80 when I saw a white vehicle with its hood up on the right-hand side. I approached the vehicle, asked him if he needed help. He said yes. He was obviously broke down. His cell phone was dead. I offered him my cell phone, and at 4:02, this is a copy of my cell phone. It's highlighted the number he called. He told me he was calling his mother. And before I left, I took a tape such as this one, and I attached it to his antenna. And this is the tape that all law enforcement uses. And this indicates that the vehicle has been checked by law enforcement to save them time so they don't go through and do the work again. I asked Joshua if he would be okay waiting for his mother. I gave him some safety instructions. And then I cleared the call at approximately 4:07. This is a copy of my report. I also have a copy of the stolen vehicle that was entered through our department.
How long have you been a police officer?
I've been a deputy for 14 years.
You familiar with tow truck operators that go up and down the highway to pick up cars?
I've heard of such. We have a contract, though, so I'm not involved with them.
You aware of the fact, though, that tow truck operators who are not authorized sometimes pick up cars along the road? I mean, I'm a citizen. I know what it's about.
Correct.
And he knows what it's about. Picked up the car and did the wrong thing. Didn't contact the owner and try to extort $600 from her. That's exactly what you did. What's the name of your company?
Tuttle, Auto Body and Towing.
Tuttle. Trucks have your name on the side? Tuttle. Keep an eye out for Tuttle.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The office called me
Baloney.
and told me to pick up a white Ford Escort
Baloney.
on I-80
Baloney.
near the Eldridge exit.
More baloney.
And later today,
Stand up. Take out your wallet. Take out your driver's license.
I don't have a license.
Sit down.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Suzanne Otts and her son Joshua Phillips claim tow company owner Michael Tuttle illegally towed their car after it broke down.
Mr. Tuttle, not only can't you give me a witness, because this happened, according to all your paperwork, the day before it happened, something like a bad Bill Murray movie.
Yep.
But I know what happened, and you had a responsibility to contact this lady on the 8th or the 9th. You chose not to do that. She did not call you. That's a lie. And anybody that you present to me that says that they took a call from this lady is a liar. And if that's who that is, he doesn't want to stand up here. I guarantee it. So you're going to pay her for her car, and you're going to give her her $85 back that you extorted from her. She paid $400 for the car, which was a lemon to begin with because it broke down a few weeks later. But it was her lemon, and you had absolutely no right to take it. You have anything you want to say to me, Mr. Tuttle?
Yep.
Go ahead.
That's wrong.
I'm listening.
Well, somebody made that call in there. We don't travel Iowa. We don't even go into Iowa. We're an Illinois tow company. So somebody called us over to Iowa to go over and pick that car up.
Show me.
I got paper that somebody called us over there.
You mean somebody was just driving by and called your company that's in another jurisdiction, somebody and then nobody came and got it?
Somebody made that call, ma'am.
Nobody made the call, Mr.
Yes,
Tuttle.
they did.
Nobody made the call.
We don't travel Iowa for no reason.
Mr. Tuttle, nobody made the call. Who was the tow truck operator?
He's the operator.
Who called?
The office called me then.
The office from the lady who wrote down the wrong date on the paperwork? Is that what you're saying to me?
Yes, ma'am.
Baloney.
The office called me.
Baloney.
I was returning from a call.
Baloney.
And told me to pick up a white Ford Escort.
Baloney.
On I-80.
Baloney.
Near the Eldridge exit.
More baloney. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $480. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Very angry. He stole the car. He blatantly stole the car, kept it for a month.
No, ma'am, we did not steal your car.
Tried to get money out of us to get it.
If we're going to steal something, it's going to be more valuable than a 91 Escort.
Glad it's over, and don't call Tuttle.
Baloney.
And now the next case.
All litigants involved in the case of Herrera versus Ponce, step forward, please.
27-year-old Sabrina Herrera is suing her mother, Christina Ponce, for the return of car payments on a 91 Camry. Sabrina says her mother illegally repossessed the vehicle.
Ms. Herrera, this is your mom.
Mm-hmm.
According to what I read in your complaint, you purchased a car. It was titled in your mother's name. She paid for the car.
No.
She didn't put down any money on the car.
No.
Did you put down any money on the car?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
How much did you put down on the car?
$1,000.
Okay, and this was your agreement. Your agreement was for it to really be your car. You were going to make the monthly payments on the car.
Right.
Even though the car was titled in your mother's name. But it was your car, and as soon as the monthly payments were completed, the car would be yours, the title would be yours.
Right.
At some point, you and your mother had a falling out.
Right.
You had made all the payments on the car.
Right.
Your mother doesn't dispute that. You had a falling out, you'll tell me why. It was something over your daughter.
Right.
And your mother took back the car.
Right.
So you want your mom to give you back all the money that you put into it because she breached the contract she had with you.
Right.
You look at me as if I'm not talking.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So that's what the case is about. Your mother says that you did, in fact, breach the contract with her because she allowed this car to be purchased in her name, using her credit. The car was for you and for her grandchildren. And she was annoyed that, A, you were disrespectful to her when you had this argument over your daughter, and B, she saw the boyfriend. I assume that that's the boyfriend.
That's my
driving,
husband.
or husband, well, it's a new husband, right?
Got married in April.
She was annoyed because she saw him driving the car, and he wasn't supposed to be driving the car. It was just for you. Okay. Now you're going to tell me when you took back the car and under what circumstances, Miss Ponce.
Okay, when I bought my daughter the car, she was a single parent with 2 kids. I never knew that she got married. And I paid for the insurance. I went in there, I went to the credit union, I put the money down. What she did is the previous car I owned, I gave to her for her and my grandkids. As soon as she sold that car, she put the rest of the money on the car payment. Now, I was telling her not to be letting him drive the car. I have the insurance in my name. I've been paying the insurance payment since I got the car for her. He has no insurance. He had no license. And every time I seen him drive it, I would just tell her, Sabrina, he's not supposed to be driving.
How do you know he has no license?
Well, because my daughter said, being that he has kids, the judge took the license away because of child support. And being...
Stand up. Take out your wallet. Open your wallet. Take out your driver's license.
I don't have a license.
Sit down. Why did you let him drive the car without a driver's license?
He has a permit.
Stand up. Go over there. Take out the permit.
It's in there.
See it?
I have it. They obviously didn't put it in the files.
Listen to me. You don't have it. Here to show me you don't have it. When the state takes away your driver's license because you failed to pay child support, they take it away because they want to punish you. They don't take it away and give you authorization to drive, especially when your mother's covering the car on her insurance. I was very sympathetic to you, I have to tell you. When I read this, I was about to say to you, you can't take the car away because the boyfriend was driving the car. She's making her monthly payments. She's entitled to, allow a boyfriend to drive her car occasionally or a friend to drive as long as the person has a license and is acting responsibly. But you can't let somebody without a driver's license drive your car. Can't do it.
Yeah, but he has a permit.
Listen to me. When the state takes away your driver's license because you failed to pay child support, they take it away so that you can't drive a car.
But she never even cared before about that.
Now she cares.
Now she cares.
Now she cares. I'm getting less sympathetic with you. Let's get to this incident. Then, Miss Ponce, you say, you were babysitting for your granddaughter?
Yeah, my granddaughter, she means a lot to me. And she came to spend the weekend with me. And that day I had to work. I'm a caterer. I work pretty much a lot. And we went shopping. When we got back, my granddaughter was eating. She broke her tooth. And when she broke her tooth, I called my daughter up and I told her, Sabrine, you have to take Destiny to the dentist, that she's crying because her tooth was hanging. And she says, well, I don't have time, I'm leaving. And I'm going, well, where are you going? And she says, we're going to go out to eat. And I go, well, can't you just take Jessie, you know, through a drive-through and you take your daughter to the dentist? And she said, no. She says, we want to sit down and eat. And then I said, well, you know what? You got your priorities mixed up. Don't ever have any more kids if you can't take care of my baby girl.
Perfect.
Then she told me, she goes, well, you know what? She goes, I'm going to take her to the dentist. But she goes, then I'm going to come and get her. But you're not allowed to see her no more. Don't call her. And don't even see her. You know, I can't. My baby girl means everything to me.
How old is she?
She's 7.
Have you seen her since?
Yeah, she allowed her to come with me on Thanksgiving.
Great. Okay.
Well, the thing is that she called me up and she told me that my daughter broke her tooth. I asked her, can you please, I go, can you take her? Because she's really close to her and she can tame her. She can relax her. I can't because she's just really too close to her. And I said, you know what? I said, can you please do it? And she said no. So she told me.
Just a second, what day of the week was that? Do you remember?
It was a Sunday.
It was a Sunday. Okay, were you working?
Yes, ma'am.
You just come home from work. What were you doing?
What was I doing? We're getting ready to go eat dinner.
What had you been doing during the day?
Just
Nothing.
cleaning. Just cleaning and stuff.
Nothing. You
taking
were
care of
hanging
my
around
kids.
your house. Why should your mother, who's worked on Sunday, take your daughter to the dentist when you've been doing but hanging around with, what's his name?
My husband.
Whatever, Mr. No License. What do you do for a living?
I stay home because I'm not supposed to really work right now because I have a heart condition.
How many children do you have?
I have 3.
How old are they?
7. One just turned 4. That's my son. And 5.5-month-old.
When were you diagnosed with a heart condition?
When I was pregnant with my daughter.
Is this the 7-year-old?
No, the 5.5-month-old baby.
And what does he do for a living?
He was working, what is it, like in the freezer of 7-Eleven.
Who was paying this $221 a month?
I was.
From
well,
what?
at the time, he
From
was
just
working.
a second. From what?
At the time, he was working. Now he's
Listen,
not working.
Now you have 3 children, and he doesn't look like he can earn enough so he can feed himself. So you're not telling me that he had an extra $221 a month to pay for a car?
But at the time, he was.
You get any
He was
assistance?
working.
Do you get any assistance?
Yes.
That's my baby. Then you say, I get assistance.
I get
and it's from the assistance that you were paying the $221 a month.
But actually, it was from him.
Actually, he was paying for your car. You're not entitled to the money back from your car. You can't afford a car. You have 3 children and one person working.
But I have my receipt showing that I...
Your mother does not have to maintain a car while you let somebody drive the car who has no insurance. And the insurance is in her name. You did the wrong thing. But you're not getting your money back. Do you understand? Period. Your case is dismissed. Goodbye.
20-year-old waitress Michelle Downer is suing her former friend, 27-year-old project manager Jason Gallahue, for assaulting her and vandalizing her car. Jason is countersuing, claiming Michelle broke the front door to his house.
This is case number 69 on the calendar in the matter of Downer versus Gallahue. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Miss Downer, according to the complaint that I've read, you allege that the defendant assaulted you and also broke your car with a rock or a brick.
Yes.
Mr. Gallahue said he was merely trying to help you from hurting yourself because you were drunk. He is counterclaiming because he says that while drunk, you broke the door to his home.
Correct.
Okay. Why don't you tell me first how you know him?
I met him through mutual friends and then started hanging out with his sister and started hanging out with him.
When did this incident happen?
On
your car?
April 10th, around 3:30 or 4 a.m. in the morning.
Where had you been?
Working.
Where do you work?
Well, I previously worked at a bar on the Landing in St. Louis.
All right, let's go to April 9th. Okay. Where were you on April 9th at about 11 o'clock in the evening?
Working.
And where was Mr. Gallahue?
I don't know.
When did you first see him? At what time?
When I was getting off work around
What time?
Around 2:30.
Where did you see him?
He was at a bar next door, and I walked out of mine and saw him in the parking lot.
And what did you do?
Said hi, just greeted each other. We were friends. Ended up giving him a ride home.
Why did you give him a ride home?
He's a friend.
How did he get to the bar?
I don't
How
know.
did you get to the bar?
I was down there with a couple other friends that were going to give me a ride home. Told Michelle asked me if she wanted to give me a ride home. So I'll go home with you.
And
we left, and on the way he tried some things and said no, and we got back to his house, and that's when all of the...
Well, tried some things. What do you mean he tried some things, Mr.
He was trying to put the moves on me, I guess you would say. Sexually trying to do things.
Okay. And you said, not interested. So you got to his house.
Yes.
And?
And as I reversed and put my car in park, and it was in the middle of the street, and he took my keys out of the ignition and ran inside his house.
And?
And I followed him in, grabbed my purse out of my car, and went in. And that's when I asked him, hey, can I have my keys back? At first it was funny because we're friends, and he was just playing a joke, but then it was late in the morning, and I wanted to go home. And he wouldn't give me my keys back, and it went on for a while, and then I started getting upset because I wanted to go home. Then we started getting an argument. One thing happened, and he spit in my face. So I slapped him on the cheek, and that's when he pushed me into the door. And that's when I got the eye, when I got hit on my eye.
And then?
I went outside and took his phone with me and called my mom to see if she had a spare key, if there was a spare key in my car. She said yes. So I grabbed that key, went back inside, and got my purse.
You mean after he hurt your eye, you went back inside for your purse?
Yeah.
He's just assaulted you, according to you.
Well, yes. But I still wanted my personal belongings. I mean, I have various credit cards in there that I really thought, it would be responsible to go back in and get my purse so that he couldn't take them.
How badly were you hurt when you hit the door with your eye?
Yes. I was
Not
crying.
yet. I said how badly. That is
how badly?
A quantitative thing. You have to say I was hurt very badly. I wasn't hurt a lot. Not yet.
I mean, it hurt. Not badly, but it definitely hurt.
Were you afraid of him?
Yes.
Then why did you go back for your pocketbook?
I don't know. I wanted it.
So you went back for your pocketbook.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened?
Then I went and got in my car and drove up to the gas station up the street to call her. That's when he came running around the corner with a rock in his hand, and he screamed and he threw it at my windshield, and I asked the gas station attendant if he saw it. He said yes. And
Don't tell me what the gas station
Okay, I'm
attendant
sorry.
said to you. So, did the windshield break?
Yes, it shattered, and I have pictures of it.
Can I see the police
Yes.
report that you filed?
I didn't file a police report.
Why is that?
I was hysterical. I wanted to get out of there. I was scared of him.
You don't have to file a police report that day, Miss Downey. You file a police report the next day. He assaulted you. Not only did he assault you, but he vandalized your car. You covered by insurance?
I did not file it with my insurance company. I paid out of pocket.
Why?
I didn't want to file it to my insurance company.
You didn't want to put in a claim to the insurance company. You didn't want to notify the police that, according to you, he assaulted you?
Yes, ma'am.
Why not?
I don't know. He's supposed to. I mean, I don't want to send him to jail or anything. I just would rather him pay for my windshield and pay for the work that I missed.
May I have the bill that you had for your eye?
It wasn't damaged to the point where I had to go to the doctor. It was just...
Well, weren't you concerned? You were injured near your eye. Could have caused all kinds of difficulty.
No.
So you didn't go to a doctor with regard to the eye?
No.
And you didn't call the police with regard to the assault or the vandalizing your car?
Yes, ma'am.
So I guess you didn't figure this was too big a deal. Now, let's go to you, Mr. Galley. I read your answer, and you have a whole different perspective on what happened on the night of April 10th.
Yeah, a lot of what she says is true. There's a few parts she missed out.
Okay,
We didn't
so that I don't have to be bothered with things that you agree on, why don't you just tell me the things that you don't agree with?
We did not meet in the parking lot. We met at the bar next door where my witness works. We were on the DJ booth messing around.
What does that mean, messing around?
Kissing, fondling, touching.
You mean...
Not all three of us, or me and him, her and I.
Okay. All right. Had she been working that night?
Yes, she has, which is also a club that he used to work at. The Shots Girls sell shots and drink shots.
Okay. So what you're saying was when she got off of work, she came next door.
Yes.
Did you forget that?
Pardon me?
Did you forget to tell me that?
No.
Well, is it true that you went next door?
Yes.
Why didn't you tell me that?
I didn't think it was pertinent.
Well, it's pertinent to tell me whether you met him in a parking lot or whether you met him in a bar and you were drinking in the bar with him before you gave him a ride home.
I didn't drink in the bar with him.
Did you drink at all that evening?
Yes, I did.
Where?
At a place that I worked at.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The plan was for her to come inside the house. I knew
Okay,
she
how do
was
you know
drunk.
that that was the plan, sir?
Actually, on the way home when we were messing around, she said, wait till we get to your house. That's how I know.
That would be a clue.
That is a clue.
And later today,
You never drove her car?
I drove it on occasion, but not that night.
You're talking about 2 years ago.
Exactly.
You remember 2 years
I
ago?
remember a lot of
Definitely.
things. I got a good memory.
You're a smart aleck.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michelle Downer says her former friend Jason Gallahue assaulted her and vandalized her car. Michelle says Jason was angry because she turned down his advances.
Next.
From there, we get in the car, go home. If she was leaving and just dropping me off...
Don't say if she was leaving, just dropping me off. Just tell me
Okay.
what you don't agree with, sir.
The plan was for her to come inside the house. I knew she
How do
was
you know
drunk,
that that was the plan, sir?
because that's what we talked about. Actually, on the way home when we were messing around, she said, wait till we get to your house. That's how I know.
That would be a clue.
That is a clue. Right. That was a good clue. I mean, that's pretty much what we disagree on. We get inside, we're arguing, she is correct. I took her keys because I know she has one DWI. Got in an accident and totaled the car already. I don't want her to get in another
Had you
accident.
been drinking that night, Mr. Gallahue?
Yes.
So the both of you had been drinking. And
Yes.
she was driving.
Yes.
And you were driving in her car.
Yes.
That was foolish, right?
Correct. Tend to do foolish things.
Well, only if you're young and drunk.
Correct.
So what you're telling me is that the two of you were both under the influence of alcohol that evening and did some very stupid things.
Yes.
And did you spit at her?
Yes, I did. After I was slapped.
Okay, so you say she slapped you first.
She
So
did
you
slap me.
Why did she slap you?
Because I had her keys and I wouldn't give her her keys and let her drive home.
And I assume the plan was to come into your home and to bring to fruition the evening's earlier activities. in your
Temptation,
house.
possibly?
Yes?
Possibly.
Now, was that activity accomplished?
No.
Is that perchance why you had her keys?
No. It is not why I had her
Oh,
keys.
so you had your keys because you were being a good Samaritan. No, I'm just asking you. Just answer my
Yeah, I
question.
guess you could
yes.
say that. Yeah.
All right. So.
But I did lose the keys.
All right.
After
You
I
lost
took.
the keys. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she slapped you. You spit in her face. You pushed her.
Yes.
And did she hit her face when you pushed her?
I don't believe so.
Oh, you don't know.
But there is one other
part.
part that she did leave out. Whenever she was leaving and slammed the door, she did break my basement door window.
Okay. Now tell me about the rock that you gently threw, according to you. The rock that I have to quote this because I found it fascinating. You ready for this? You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. She ran out of my house and slammed the door, breaking the window. I was extremely upset, so I grabbed a rock and tossed it gently at her car.
Like
Now,
gingerly.
so I would like you, please, sir, to just step back for a moment. Just take 2 steps back and show me how you gently throw a rock at her car.
It might have been, I was drunk, I didn't know. I had drinks, it might have been overhanded.
And you broke the windshield on her car.
Yeah, that's where it landed.
Okay. How much did the windshield cost?
$265.69.
And how much did the window on the door cost?
I put it in myself.
So how much did it cost?
$42 for the actual window itself.
And your labor
Of course.
is free, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. What do you do for a living, sir?
Actually, I'm a project manager.
For what?
Dance club.
Well, that's a nice title anyway.
Sure.
I like project manager anyway. Okay. When she broke the window in your house, did you call the police?
No.
Are you angry with her?
No.
Are you
I
angry? Shh. Are you angry with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Get over it. Get over it. Sounds to me like you both had a little too much to drink, and got pretty much what you deserved. Your case is dismissed, and so is your counterclaim. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When I was attacked at the club, I was trying to fulfill her sexual needs, go back to the house. I don't know, she was obviously too drunk for that.
He's a liar.
I was there at the club that they work in. I was actually the DJ for it. You know, they were falling out of the DJ booth, stumbling drunk.
He spit in my face. That's disrespect in my book, and you don't spit in people's faces.
She was drunk. I wanted to save a friend, trying to be a good Samaritan.
He lied about advances. That was pretty much it. I still don't think I broke his door, though, but it got dismissed.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gerber versus Holtmeyer. Step forward, please.
27-year-old nurse Lauren Gerber is suing her former friend, nurse's aide Gregory Holtmeyer, for punching her windshield. Gregory claims it never happened.
Ms. Gerber, the defendant was a friend of yours, and it is your claim that he twice damaged your car. You want him to pay for the damage. Mr. Holtmeyer said he never damaged your car. You're just annoyed because he no longer wants to be a friend of yours, and he's moved on to a relationship with somebody, a relationship that he believes you wanted to have with him, but he wasn't interested. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Well, I read your answer. If there's anything that I said there that's wrong, please correct me.
that's close.
I like to be precise.
That was precise.
Don't be annoying, Mr. Holtmeyer. All right, Ms. Gerber, when was the first time he damaged your car?
Was in February of 2002.
Under what circumstances?
He was pulling my vehicle out of the driveway, which was next to my house, and he got a little too close to the house, and it hit the driver's side mirror, which shattered and also scraped the left fender.
And you were in the car at the time?
I was in the passenger seat.
When was the second time he damaged your car?
September of 2003.
Tell me about that.
We had been at my apartment watching a Cowboys-Giants game, and on the way home, punched the inside of the windshield with his fist, which he wears a Dallas ring on, and that's what hit the glass and shattered.
Who was driving?
I was driving.
And what did he say at that time? That was September of 2003.
That he was sorry and go get an estimate. He'd pay whatever the estimate was for it.
Between February 2002 and September of 2003, did you let him drive your car?
On occasion.
How come you stopped being friends?
In October, we had made plans for him to move in with me. His mother had to move to St. Louis, and he had nowhere to stay. The day before he was scheduled to move in, I hadn't heard from him. The day of, I still hadn't heard from him. I went to the house, and it was completely empty. Everything was gone, and that's the last time I'd heard from him.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lauren Gerber says her former friend Gregory Holtmeyer punched her windshield after a Dallas Cowboys football game.
What made you decide to pursue the 2-year-old broken mirror on your car?
Because in October, he was still saying once he was waiting on an insurance settlement from an accident last March when he got run over by a truck.
Did you fix this mirror on your car?
The mirror I did fix. It was undrivable with it broken.
And how much did it cost to fix the mirror?
It was $140.
And how much is the windshield?
$242.30. I have pictures of that.
I'd like to see it. Let's hear about this side mirror in February of 2002, sir.
I don't know anything about that. When I'd come home from Indiana, I did call her, and I would go over to her house, and we would sometimes drink and watch TV or hang out on the porch and just talk about, at that time she was seeing Lance, a boyfriend of hers. And
I'd like to hear this.
That night, I guess the night she's talking about, I don't remember driving her car home. So that's news to me. If I broke anything or ran into something, I would like to see evidence of that.
No, what she said was that you were pulling out of her driveway.
Impossible.
Why is it impossible?
I'd have to be in the driver's seat.
Yes. You never drove her car?
I drove it on occasion, but not that night.
How do you know?
Because I know.
You're
I got out on the
2 years.
passenger side and went home.
You're talking about 2 years ago.
Exactly.
You remember 2 years ago?
I remember a lot of
definitely?
things. I got a good memory.
You're a smart aleck.
Maybe. I know if I was driving the car, I wasn't driving the car. I got out of the passenger side and went into my house.
Do you see my mouth moving? When my mouth moves, yours doesn't. What do you do for a living?
Certified nursing aide.
Okay. Do you take care of elderly people?
Yes, I do.
Are you supposed to be kind and understanding when you take care of elderly people?
Yes.
And respectful?
Yes.
This is my space. Let's remember that. Have I said anything that was disrespectful to you so far?
No.
Have I said anything that was wise-alecky to you?
No.
Do you think you have said things that are disrespectful to me?
Probably.
Is there any particular reason for that, Mr. Holtmeyer?
Just nervous.
Well, sometimes when people are nervous, their palms sweat and they become quiet. So you mean when you're nervous, you become nasty? Is that what you're telling me?
I guess.
Clearly. When you're nervous, you become nasty. I would certainly hope that your employers will be watching this case so that they can ascertain what happens to you when you become under stress. February of 2002 is what you're telling me that you remember the night that she's talking about, and you were not driving the car.
Nope.
And nothing happened that night.
Not to my knowledge. I got out of the passenger side and went home that night. The same with the windshield. I got a call 2 days after the fact, and it said I broke her windshield. And I said, I did what? She said,
maybe you had too much to drink. Mr. Holtmeyer, I also think that the people who allow you to take care of older people should understand that when you have too much to drink, you don't remember things. And that could be a very dangerous thing when you're taking care of people who are infirm. The people who you work for are now on notice that that's, as far as I'm concerned, a real problem that you have. You owe her $382, sir, and that's $140 for her mirror and $242 from breaking her windshield. Both of those things I find that you did. Thank you very much. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $382. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
25-year-old waitress Brenda Rhodes is suing her sister, homemaker Jessica Lullenberg, for the return of personal property. Jessica is countersuing for unpaid rent and for pawning her son's Xbox.
Yes, this is case number 50 on the calendar in the matter of Rhodes versus Lullenberg. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat, please.
Miss Rose, the defendant is your sister, and according to your complaint, the two of you moved into an apartment together. Your sister put you out of the apartment, and according to you, she kept some of your property and disposed of your property, and you don't have it anymore, and you're suing her for, I think, $3,000 for the value of the property. Your sister says you left the property there. She doesn't have the property. She was forced to move out of the apartment when you left. She doesn't know what happened to it. Well, at least she doesn't have it. And she says that you actually owe her money. You owe her money because you didn't pay part of rent that you should have paid. And in addition, you stole her child's Xbox and pawned it for money. She wants money for that. Is this your mother?
Yes, it is.
When did you move in with your sister and why?
When? I'd say the first week in November.
Why?
To help her and her kids out.
Explain that to me.
She was working a night shift at a factory, and she asked me to watch her kids while she worked, and I said, okay. That was the agreement. No rent, no nothing was involved. As long as I stay there with her kids, that's fine.
Who moved in? You alone?
Well, with my two other girls. I have two girls.
So what you're telling me is you weren't supposed to pay any rent?
Exactly.
Why?
As long as I watched her kids while she worked.
Just a minute. Weren't you working?
No, not at the time. She said, you know, when you can, find a job.
That's interesting. So she worked at night?
Yes.
And you slept while she worked?
Watched her kids and my kids while she worked.
Well, what were her hours of working?
5 o'clock in the evening till 3:30 in the morning.
So I assume at some point you went to sleep?
Well, yeah.
You weren't watching the children 3:30 in the morning?
No.
And how old are her boys?
Ashton is 6 and Tyler is 4, I believe.
And your children?
Mackenzie is 5 and Alyssa is 3.
So they're about the same age?
Yes.
And when did you move out?
She kicked me out the night before Thanksgiving.
So you were there for less than a month. What happened?
We went to a local bar together with her boyfriend, and somehow it became of a fight. She came up to me, started calling me obnoxious names. She pushed me into a DJ, and she told me to get my crap out. Other words were said. And I had to give her the key. It was her key. She was on the lease. I wasn't. I gave her the key. I tried to go back that night, She wouldn't let me have my things. The next day, I was with my other sister, Rebecca. She took me over there. I tried to get my things. She wouldn't let me.
What things?
My girls' brand new beds. I went out and bought them.
Okay. Your daughter's beds?
Yes.
What else was there?
My girls' clothes.
What else?
Just little items, but I don't really care about them.
Okay. Your children's beds and their clothes?
Yes.
You took none of your children's clothes?
She wouldn't let me in. I couldn't.
Did you ever go back to get the children's clothes?
I tried. I called the police.
No, did you ever get them?
No.
And when did your sister, to the best of your knowledge, move out of the apartment? When did you move out of the apartment?
When did I? The 1st of December.
When you moved out of the apartment, where were the children's beds?
The children's beds, they came with me, ma'am.
Yes. The girls' beds?
We had a verbal agreement.
Just a second.
Okay.
So the girls' beds came with you?
Yes, they did.
And the girls' clothes?
The girls' clothes. I took them to my sister Rebecca's house, and my sister Brenda picked them up.
And the beds you took with you?
Yes.
Why did you take the beds with you?
Her boyfriend at the time, his brother TJ asked if he could use the Xbox of my boys.
I'm talking about the beds.
Why? Yes, I'm getting to that. I took those because she stole my kids' Xbox and pawned it off. Her husband, Sean, told me that she went to his house and told him that she got $150 out of it. And me and her had an agreement.
I don't even talk to Sean.
Shh, Miss Rhodes. Miss Rhodes.
Me and Brenda, we agreed. We had a verbal agreement that I could keep the beds for compensation of the Xbox. That was the agreement we had together.
I don't think so.
No, Miss Rhodes, I don't want you to speak now, okay?
All right.
Good. Miss Lullenberg, do you take any medication?
Do I? No. I'm pregnant. I don't take no medication. Never in my life.
I'm going to read you something.
Okay.
And this something is a sworn statement that you made to the court.
Okay.
And you say, I do not have my sister's daughter's beds or her clothes. All of her belongings were there when I left. And I know my landlord had no use for them either. In any case, my parents bought those beds for her for $200. I have sons, so I have no use for girls' clothing, and I have no idea she came up with $3,000. So when you swore to this affidavit, you swore to the fact that when you left the apartment December 1st, the beds were there. Listen to me.
Okay.
Now you're telling me that you took the beds because you had an agreement with your sister that the beds were going to be yours. So what happens is, Miss Lullenberg, what you have to do is you have to tell the truth all the time so that you don't have to keep making up stories as you go. Do you understand?
Yes.
When somebody asks you to fill out an affidavit, and with the affidavit it says, I, Jessica Lullenberg, being duly sworn, deposes and says, and you say in this affidavit that you sign that I left the beds in the apartment when I moved out. That's what you said. You didn't say anything about taking them with you, about an agreement with the Xbox. You didn't say anything about it. You said I left them there when I moved out. The problem is you forgot. You forgot the story that you told.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She lived approximately a month with me.
No, it wasn't a month.
Well, what I came up with was.
Is that the same thing that you came up with when you couldn't figure out what happened to the beds?
And later today.
All right, Mr. Hallmark, now I'll hear you, sir.
Pardon me?
I'll hear you.
Can you repeat that?
I will hear you.
You know what? You guys can laugh at someone else. I'm out of here.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brenda Rhodes says her sister, Jessica Lullenberg, owes for the return of her children's beds and their clothes. Jessica claims Brenda pawned her son's Xbox.
Okay. How much did you pay for the beds?
$320 cash.
Show me. Great. Now, you want to tell me why she owes you for rent and the value of the Xbox. Go ahead. That's your counterclaim.
We made an agreement when she moved in that she would try to get a job. She lived approximately a month with me, 4 weeks. I was the only one
No, she
working.
didn't live a month. She lived there less than 3 weeks.
Well,
It was about 2.5.
Shh. Miss Rhodes, do
I'm
I look like
sorry.
I need any help from you?
No. It was approximately, well, about a month, ma'am.
No, it wasn't a month. Wasn't a month.
Well, what I came up with was.
Well, is that the same thing that you came up with when you couldn't figure out what happened to the beds? She moved out Thanksgiving. That's still in the month of November.
Thanksgiving Day. The day of Thanksgiving, I told her to come get her belongings, that she's out of my house.
Right.
And that was at my parents' home.
So she said she was going to try to get a job. And for the few weeks that she was there, she did not get a job. So?
And everything was in my name. My father loaned me the $700, and I paid the rent, and I paid $255 for the NIPSCO, and I paid for the water, which was $30, and I have all this right there.
She didn't get a job. You had no agreement. You just said to me, you told her, move in with me and try to get a job. She didn't get a job in the 2.5 weeks that she lived there.
She didn't pay any bills. She didn't try.
That wasn't your agreement. That wasn't your agreement, Miss Lullenberg. Your agreement was not that she was going to pay a certain amount of money every month, whether or not she had a job. Your agreement was that she was going to be there, according to you, that she was going to stay there with you and try to get a job, and once she got a job, you were going to work out a payment schedule.
Exactly.
But she didn't get a job in the 2.5 weeks that she was there, so she doesn't owe you any money for bills. Now, let's get to the Xbox.
I have a police report.
Let me see it.
That I...
All right, without resorting to any hearsay, madam, let us assume that your son had an Xbox and games, and your son no longer has it, the Xbox and games. What makes you think that your sister, what proof do you have?
What proof I have it?
Do you have that your sister took
A statement from TJ.
I don't take statements, madam. Statements are hearsay.
Okay.
What proof do you have that your sister...
What proof? None.
Good.
I should have brought her husband.
Well, then you should have brought somebody who could testify with regard to the Xbox. Your counterclaim is dismissed. You owe your sister for the beds, which you finally acknowledged that you did in fact take, and are using $320, which is the cost of the beds.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They're my family, but that's it. That's as far as it goes.
She's evil.
I don't want nothing to do with them.
She owes me and her dad money. I got another daughter that owes us money. No.
Family never works out.
I have got some evil daughters.
We could go on and on and on all day of all the things they've done to me, and them being family. It's sad.
It ain't gonna change, but, you know, I'd like it to, but...
Never, ever, ever, ever. I don't ever want to see them again.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Matthews versus Hallmark. Step forward.
Department store worker Sharon Matthews is suing her friend's ex-boyfriend, mechanic George Hallmark, for damage to her car. Sharon claims George power braked, spraying her car with rocks.
What's your name?
Cynthia Dodd.
Dodd? I assume from what I read, Miss Matthews, that Miss Dodd was the friend that you were referring to in your complaint. Is that
Yes.
right? You were helping, according to you, Miss Dodd move out of Mr. Hallmark's residence. They had been boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that right? She called you and asked you, or came over to your home and asked you if you would go over and accompany her while she retrieved some of her property.
Yes.
Because I assume, well, step up for a moment. I assume, Miss Dodd, that you were separating from Mr. Hallmark, and it was not a friendly separation. Is that right?
Correct.
How long had you been together?
About 7 months.
You were living in his house?
Yes.
Just the two of you?
Yes.
When did you decide to leave?
When he threw me out.
What date?
The 11th of February.
Had you had an argument?
Yeah, I was taking him to work, and he told me to get out of his car and just go away. So I called her mother-in-law and had her come pick me up.
Where did you have her pick you up?
Across the street from his work, where he put me out of his car.
And from there, where did you go?
To her mother-in-law's home.
Then there came a time when you went back to his house, is that right, to collect some of her property?
Yes.
And that was also on the 11th?
No, this was on the 23rd of February this year.
Had you made arrangements with Mr. Hallmark to go back and get your things on that
Your
date?
Honor.
Tell me about that.
I called and asked him if it would be okay if I came and picked up a few things, and he said that'd be fine.
What things did you want to get?
Just some clothes.
You hadn't gotten any clothes?
No, ma'am.
Did Miss Dodd call you on the 23rd and ask if she could come over, Mr. Hallmark?
Sure did.
And you said it was okay?
Yeah.
And what happened when she got there?
She got her things. As we were leaving, I pulled up next to her and I said, "Nice car, Sharon."
Okay, that's
all
what we'll
this.
get. Just a second. So you got your things inside.
Yes.
And it's your claim, Miss Matthews, that at some point during that interchange of property, Mr. Hallmark damaged your car.
Yes, he did.
Now we're going to take it step by step, because he says he didn't, and if he did, it was an old car, or it was an accident. You know, there are a couple of defenses here. He's going to give all of them to me when it's his turn, right?
Sure.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So you went inside to the house, and you got your things.
Yes.
Did you have any words with him?
Yeah, I asked him to please not, start yelling at me like he usually does and threatening me.
Well, what did you say to him, and what did he say to you? She was waiting outside. You were waiting outside?
Yes, I was waiting outside, and I told her, if anything happens, just yell really loud. Or otherwise, if you take too long, I will be up there to knock on the doors, because we got to go.
Okay. So she went into the house, you went and knocked at the door, and what happened, Miss Dodd, when you knocked at the door?
I asked George if it was all right if I came in and got some stuff, and he said that'd be fine. Then he asked me why I was doing this, and I said, because you threw me out. And I asked him, please stop yelling and don't,
Was he yelling at that point?
He's starting to raise his voice, and he's known to be loud.
Okay. What happened next?
And then he kind of calmed down, and so I finished getting my things, and I got outside.
You brought your things outside?
Correct. To Sharon's car.
Did you put them in the car?
Yes.
What happened next?
We started to back out, and he walked up to her and said, "Oh, nice car," because she'd just got her car like
she
2
was
days.
You weren't in the car yet. You were over at your car in the front of the driveway.
I didn't, just a second.
I'm sorry.
Was she in your car?
I was next to the car.
You were standing next to the car?
Yes.
Now tell me what happened.
Okay, because she had her vehicle that he had pushed out in the road and had towed away like the next day or something, but that's beside the point.
Well, then don't give me what's beside the point. I have to stick to the point. I'm old.
Okay, sorry, but okay, she had walked out to her vehicle and was trying to get into it, but she didn't have the keys, and that's when I backed out of the driveway. And after I backed out and I pulled up just towards her car, going the opposite direction, that's when George went out the driveway too, but he was going up next to my car, and that's when he said something like, "Nice car, does it run good," or something to that effect.
Did you answer him?
No, I didn't say anything. I just turned up my radio. And at that point, she came into my car and got in the vehicle because she didn't have the keys to her car. And he went around me, and at that point, it goes down to where it Y's off. You have to go one way or the other, and there's like dirt and gravel right there at the end of the street. And at that point, it seemed like a long time, but it was about 30 seconds where he had power braked his car, and he kept his foot on the brake and put his foot down on the gas and just kept burning out. It seemed like forever because I thought my window had broken quite a few times the way it cracked and it hit the windshield and it hit the front end of my car.
Pebbles?
Yeah, well, there's like rocks and dirt and everything down there. It's not a very good street. You
have pictures of the damage to the car?
Yes, I have one picture on it.
What time of the day was this?
It was about approximately 7:30 p.m.
After he revved up his car and caused this debris to go on your car, did he leave?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hallmark, now I'll hear you, sir.
Pardon me?
I'll hear you.
Can you repeat that?
I will hear you.
Okay. What do you want to hear?
I want to hear your version of the events of the 23rd of February, sir.
Yeah? Here's a picture of the corner.
No. I don't want to see a picture of the corner. I want you to tell me what happened.
She came, got her stuff. She was putting her stuff in the car, and I pulled up next to her and I go, "A nice car, way to go." And I went on up to the corner and took off. I punched the gas, and it got rocks, but she was still putting her gun in the trunk. And I don't know. The next thing she never asked me to repair it. She never showed me the damage.
What kind
Next
of work?
thing I know, I get this paperwork.
Stop it. What kind of work?
I'm being sued.
Mr. Hallmark, what kind of work do you do for a living, sir?
Mechanic.
What kind of mechanic?
Mechanic.
Well, there are all
Automotive,
kinds of mechanics.
trucks.
Automotive.
Equipment.
Okay. Are you self-employed or do you work for someone?
Yeah, self-employed.
Where do you work out of, sir?
My house.
So you have a garage in your house?
No, I have a garage at my house.
Did you file tax returns last month?
You know what? You guys can laugh at someone else. I'm out of here.
Okay. Ms. Matthews, the defendant has chosen to leave, but I've heard enough after hearing the facts of this case and seeing his demeanor and temper to determine that he maliciously caused damage to your car.
Your Honor,
and he,
I'm sorry, ma'am.
You're suing for $700 for a paint job? That's a reasonable amount. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $700. We'll see someone escorts you out. Thank you.
Can you make sure he's not out there?
Yes, we'll
Thank
make
you.
sure someone escorts you outside.
Thank you.
Parties are excused and they step out.
Finance company manager Daniel Cruz is suing his ex-fiancée, Shannon Kelly, for unpaid loans and for damaging his car in a drunken rage.
Yeah, it's case number 88 on the calendar in the matter of Cruz versus Kelly. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Mr. Cruz, Ms. Kelly was your former fiancée.
That is correct, Your Honor.
And according to your complaint, you believe that she owes you some money for some loans that were made a year ago by you.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, more recently, that she had a hissy fit about something and threw a potted plant at your car, causing some damage.
Yes.
Ms. Kelly says that while you were generous to her over the course of your relationship, there were never any loans, and she has no clue as to what you're talking about with regard to damaging your car. Who is this person, Ms. Kelly?
This is my boyfriend now.
Does he have any particular knowledge of this case?
He does. He
About
was, what? Basically, when we had broken off the engagement, Dan had become very upset with the whole thing, and he had come to my house making threats, trying to get into my house, and he was there. And
well, that has nothing to do with this case.
Right. So basically, he just
basically he's just here as eye candy.
Whatever.
What's the matter? Isn't that right?
Eye candy.
All right. When were you and Miss Kelly engaged?
We were engaged on January 5th, 2004.
For how long?
We were engaged until February 20th of 2004.
And when were these loans, Mr. Cruz?
Loans were done at various times throughout the relationship.
Mr. Cruz,
yes.
Let's get to the biggies.
Sure.
Let's try this. Nothing under $100. I have a $100 threshold that I'm going to hit. So.
I can guarantee there's nothing under $100, Your Honor.
Perfect.
Okay.
Give me the date and give me what it was for.
Okay. The first one, Your Honor, was for rent that I paid for in May of 2003.
And how much was that,
That
sir?
was for $400.
Tell me the conversation that took place.
The conversation?
Yes.
Okay. I asked her, I said, do you have the money for the rent? And she said she did not have the money for the rent. And she asked if I could front it for her. I said, sure, I'd be willing to do that, but you're going to have to pay me back.
Okay. Now, do you remember that May of 2003?
I did not receive my check through the mail yet, and he did propose to, like, not lend me the money, but to pay for my portion of it.
Okay. Miss Kelly, let's stop there. You say your check didn't come in the mail.
Right.
What check are we talking about?
My disability check.
How much did you get from disability?
I get about $1,000 a month.
What's the nature of your disability?
Mentally have stress, a lot of stress. Basically, I was fired from a previous job for sexual harassment, and from that, it caused me a lot of damage. And so I went to see, I was going to fight against them and sue them.
All right, so you received Social Security disability. Do you still?
Actually, no. As of a few weeks ago, no.
Now, your check hadn't arrived yet. So you must have said to Mr. Cruz, my check hasn't come yet. My check hasn't come yet. Can you front the money for me?
I don't even think I went as far as asking him that. It was, you know, he paid for a lot of things for me.
No, I don't want to hear a lot of things. Listen, I'm a very organized person. We're talking about May of 2003
Did I ask him?
and your rent. And your rent. So if you were accustomed to paying your rent out of your disability check and your check was late, the common sense would be, can you pay the rent, and when my check comes, I'll give it back to you. That's common sense. I mean, that's what one would think of what was said.
Correct.
Right. And?
And
you paid the $400, your share of the rent. Did you ever get your check?
Yeah.
Did you give him back the $400?
I've tried, and he would not accept it because he said that he didn't want it.
Okay. Now, when was the next loan you made to her, sir?
December of 2003. I loaned her money for a couple of sets of car repairs, actually. First repair was December 18th of 2003. That was for $227.
Right.
The other one was December 20th, 2003. That was for $180.
Any other loans, sir?
In January 2004, there was money that I loaned her for medical expenses. I had gotten back from a cruise, okay, so I took her to the urgent care. The cost for that was $237. She did not have the money to pay it. I told her once again I would loan her the money for the $237, but that she'd have to pay me back for that as well.
And those are the loans you're talking about?
There's also one more loan. I'm sorry I neglected to bring it up. It was in August of 2003. It was also for repairs for her car, okay, and that was for $281.68.
And you want to tell me about the damage to your car, sir?
January 19, 2004, I was on my way to work. First Monday back from the cruise. On the way to work, I was rear-ended by a lady. At the time, the car was still drivable, okay, but I knew I was going to have to take it into the shop, but knowing that it was going to be in there for at least a week or so, I didn't take it right away. January 23rd, she and I had an argument. She got upset with me. She went outside. My car was parked in front of her house. She took a potted plant. She broke it on my car. Now, I had made an insurance claim on the damage that the other lady caused me. However, I did make an insurance claim on what she had caused because I didn't want there to be any type of legal recourse against her as far as
you were
criminal.
engaged.
Right.
And you stayed engaged for another month.
That's correct.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She looked at it, she said, "I'm sorry." She said, "But you are lucky. I meant to put it through your windshield." I don't have pictures, but I do have the pieces of the pot that she broke on it.
You think that I'm going to look at the pieces
Well,
of
I
the
didn't
pot
know.
without pictures of the car? Mr. Cruz.
And later today,
What kind of car do you drive, sir?
88 Olds Delta.
And one of your wheels fell off, is that right?
I had just put them on and I was driving around the block. And I went to go hit my brakes and then the wheel just came off.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Daniel Cruz says ex-fiancée Shannon Kelly owes for unpaid loans and for smashing a potted plant on top of his car.
Okay, let's hear about the potted plant, madam.
I don't know what he's talking about, actually. We fought all the time.
So you mean he's making this story up?
Or if somebody else did it, I don't. He never. I mean.
No.
There's. I don't know what he's.
Anything else you want to tell me?
Yes, that this is not true. With the car repairs, he called me and said that he had a surprise for me, that he had recovered some funds that he wasn't aware of, and that he wanted to get my car out. And I said no, I didn't want to. I'd rather pay for it myself, and he insisted. Okay, he decided to do that. When I did get my check, again, I did give him back $200 because I didn't want anything from him.
Why didn't you want anything from him?
Because he would use it against me and throw it up to me and make me feel terrible in
What
fights.
kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm a branch manager for a finance company.
Are you currently employed, Miss Kelly?
No.
And how do you support yourself? On disability?
I was up until recently, so now I'm going to find a job.
Do you live with this gentleman here?
Yes, I do.
Do you work?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a carpenter.
Okay. Here's your problem, Mr. Cruz. Of the 5 loans that you've made to her over the course of a 6 or 7 month period, she had not made any payments. Is that right?
That is correct.
That's not a loan. That's what you give to your girlfriend. I find that it's unreasonable to believe that if, in fact, this engagement came to fruition and developed into a marriage, that we wouldn't be standing here today. Right?
Well, that's...
Not
necessarily.
Well, not necessarily. I'm telling you that if you and Miss Kelly married, we would not be standing here today. You're angry. She didn't give you a lot of money. You gave her a lot of money. I mean, altogether, it doesn't amount to a whole lot of money over the course of a relationship that spanned a couple of years. But those aren't loans. Loans get repaid. Even marginally, they get repaid. And anybody who's... You're in finance?
Yes.
Doesn't loan more money when the first loan hasn't been paid, and doesn't loan money for a third time when the first 2 loans haven't been paid, and doesn't loan money for the 4th time when the first 3 loans haven't been paid. Because if you do that, you're soon going to be out of business. unless you're operating from your heart, because you're involved in a relationship, and then it no longer becomes an arm's length contract. It becomes a situation where, well, if the relationship works out, so it's over. But if it doesn't, I don't want to be out this money. So, Mr. Cruz, get over it. Let me see pictures of the car where she dropped the potted plant. What's in that box?
Unfortunately, Your Honor, I don't have pictures, okay? And the reason being for that is because she called me the next day, and she apologized to me for doing it. And then when I went to her house, I showed her what she had done to the car. She didn't realize it. And she looked at it, she said, "I'm sorry." She said, "But you are lucky. I meant to put it through your windshield." And I said, "Well, if you put it through the windshield, it probably would have cost less." I don't have pictures, but I do have the pieces of the pot that she broke on it. That's what's in the box.
You think, sir, that that I'm going to look at the pieces of the pot without pictures of the car? Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
And she called you up and she apologized. Let me ask you this question, Mr. Cruz. Between the 23rd of January, when she caused this damage to your car, is that what you told me?
Yes.
Okay. And February 20th of 2004, you were in fact engaged, is that right?
Yes.
Were you intimate during that period?
Yes.
You forgave her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today.
When you have no money in the bank, you have to be an idiot to spend $900 on wheels for an old car.
You can say that.
I am saying that. What I want to hear is you saying it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Daniel Cruz says ex-fiancée Shannon Kelly owes for unpaid loans and for smashing a potted plant on top of his car.
You forgave her, sir. She feels as if you forgave her. I feel as if you forgave her. You got to put a period and say, I'm moving on. And whatever money it was, it's a cheap lesson. And I'm very, very lucky that I didn't hook my wagon to this star, which would have caused you in the long run in your life, Mr. Cruz, far greater damage. You could have done the absolutely unthinkable and stupid thing to have married this lady.
True.
Right?
That's true.
Instead, this gentleman's going to marry her. That's going to be his problem.
Let him deal with it.
Right? Right.
Yeah, let him deal with it.
That's all. Good luck, sir.
Yeah, whatever.
Parties are excused when they step out.
She's getting hers now. I mean, you can see with what she's with and what she's doing now, which is nothing, and what she'll always become in her life is nothing.
Basically, he just wants to, demolish whatever life that I do have.
She was cheating on me with the gentleman she brought in the courtroom today.
He was trying to commit suicide a couple times over me. He even was put into the hospital for 4 days in the mental institution for throwing me across the room and bruising my tailbone.
Look out for freeloaders like this one over here. She's going to cost you a lot of money, cost you a lot of heartache, and she laughs over here, but I'm going to get the last laugh when I see what her life has become.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Leiferman versus Lux. Step forward, please.
26-year-old homemaker Angela Leiferman is suing motorist 19-year-old Stanley Lux for car repair costs. Angela says she was hit by a wheel that fell off Stanley's vehicle.
Bird, you remember elementary school? You know what we used to call that in elementary school? A visual aid.
That's right.
So this is a visual aid, and what I gather from your complaint is you were parked where?
Number 3.
And what were you doing on 108th Street?
I was driving to my mom's house.
Were you driving or were you parked?
This is a stoplight, and I was stopped at a red light.
And according to what I read in your complaint, your car got hit with a wheel, car wheel.
Right.
You can step back now. And that wheel belonged to a car that belonged to the defendant.
Yep.
And you want him to pay for the damage because his wheel came off.
Exactly.
Is that easy?
Right.
Right. Can I see the damage to your car?
Okay.
Were you frightened when it banged into your car?
Extremely. My 3-month-old son was in the vehicle with me, so I was nervous.
Okay, Mr. Lux?
Yep.
What kind of car do you drive, sir?
A 88 Olds Delta.
And one of your wheels fell off, is that right?
Yes.
Had you just put these wheels on?
Yes.
Did you put them on?
Yes.
Yourself?
Myself.
So I would like you to tell me, and Officer Bird would like to know why you're not responsible for the damage to her car.
Okay. First off, where she was parked, I got pictures. She was parked in a turning lane. It wasn't a light nowhere near. The light was up further. So I know she wasn't parked at a light.
Okay,
you know?
so the first thing that you say, and I read your answer, is that she was parked in a place she shouldn't have been.
She shouldn't have been parked.
Okay. And what's your second defense, Mr. Lux?
And then, I mean, she just wasn't supposed to. I mean, she was parked. I mean, from my understanding, you know what I'm saying? Because I didn't even know, you know what I'm saying, that their wheel was going to fall off. Just like naturally, anybody wouldn't know that their wheel was going to fall off. I had just put them on and I was driving around the block, just around the corner, just to make sure that they was on right. And in the process, I was riding down the hill and I went to go hit my brakes and then the wheel just came off.
So let me try to see if I can translate this into a language that we all commonly understand. That he had put the wheels on his car and he was driving around to see if he had put them on good.
Yeah.
Or well.
All the
Good.
way.
No, correct. I said that we all commonly understand.
I got you.
And you didn't put them on.
Well.
Because one of them fell
off.
So I guess that answered your question.
Yeah.
I still don't understand how that is a defense, sir, except that you were doing a test run to see if you had done a good job, and you did a bad
job.
Mr. Lux, you don't look like a bad young man. Do you work?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do, sir?
Inventory.
And did you pay a lot of money for these wheels?
Yes.
How much did you pay for them?
Roughly around $800 or $900.
And who do you live with, sir?
Right now, I stay with my grandmother.
Do you pay her rent?
No.
Do you have a bank account?
Yes.
How much money do you have in the bank account?
Not that much, Your Honor.
Okay. Let's talk about priorities.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that means?
Yes.
When you have no money in the bank and you're living off somebody else, like you're living off of your grandmother, and you have a job, you have to be an idiot to spend $900 on wheels for an old car.
You can say that.
I am saying that. What I want to hear is you say that.
I mean, is it...
No, I really want to hear you say that.
But I don't feel
really
like
want to
though.
hear you say, if I had a spare $900, I would give it to my grandmother. Give her $200 a month to say, Grandma, I know I'm a growing boy, I eat a lot, you know, and I use the phone, and I use gas and electric, and I want to contribute to the household, because that's what grown-ups do.
Mm-hmm.
Grown-ups don't live off other people and then spend $900 on rims for an old car.
Well, I really wasn't, you know what I'm saying, staying with her. Matter of fact, when was this, March 31st?
Right.
Yeah, well, I was staying with her at the point in time, you know what I'm saying, in March and stuff. But prior to that, I did have my own place, and I was paying my own bills, you know what I'm saying? And it got rough for me then because I had lost my job. So I did have to move.
Where'd you get the $900 for the wheels?
I say it was in my account. That's what I do. I save my money. But you know what I'm saying, because that's something I deserve that I should. I wanted.
You wanted it.
That's what I wanted.
You wanted it even more than you wanted to pay rent.
To me, rent is irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? What does rent have to do with that?
Rent is irrelevant. I got it. I understand.
What does rent have to do with
I understand
rent?
that. Mr. Lux, let me explain something to you. I'm going to put you out of your misery, sir. You had an accident with your car.
Mm-hmm.
Your car, because of your negligence in putting on these wheels improperly, fell off and damaged the plaintiff's car to the tune of $944. That's what you have to pay. $944. Whether she was parked in a no parking zone, whether she was parked halfway to Pluto, it's irrelevant. Your car caused her car damage because of your negligence. You have to pay for that.
I understand it.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $944.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Cái triển vọng và cơ hội việc làm sau khi mà chúng ta du học tại đất nước Na Uy, thì Na Uy sẽ mang lại một cái triển vọng cũng như là cái việc làm và cái cơ hội việc làm tuyệt vời cho các bạn sinh viên quốc tế. Khi mà các bạn sinh viên tốt nghiệp từ các trường đại học được công nhận ở đất nước Na Uy đang có cái nhu cầu rất là cao và có thể tìm được cái việc làm trong nhiều ngành nghề khác nhau, bao gồm như là các cái công việc như là công nghệ, tài chính, y tế và kỹ thuật. Và nếu như mà chúng ta muốn làm việc ở đất nước Na Uy sau khi mà chúng ta tốt nghiệp thì chúng ta cần phải xin cái giấy phép lao động và được cấp dựa trên cái kỹ năng và sẽ dựa trên cái trình độ của chúng ta. Và giấy phép thì sẽ cho chúng ta cái khả năng làm việc toàn thời gian ở đất nước Na Uy trong tối đa thời gian là 6 tháng, trong khi mà chúng ta tìm kiếm việc làm lâu dài. Và đối với nền kinh tế ở đất nước Na Uy thì mạnh mẽ và đang vô cùng là phát triển, tập trung vào cái đổi mới và bền vững. Với điều này thì sẽ tạo ra cái nhu cầu cao về lao động có tay nghề trong nhiều ngành nghề, đặc biệt là trong cái lĩnh vực công nghệ. Thì có rất là nhiều bạn sinh viên đã chọn học các cái lĩnh vực liên quan đến công nghệ hoặc là liên quan đến cái tính bền vững, vì những cái ngành này thì sẽ mang lại cái cơ hội nghề nghiệp rất là tuyệt vời ở đất nước Na Uy và trên toàn thế giới.